When the new house construction idea was first proposed, Mu Dong identified 4 challenges. Vast amounts of wood, vast amounts of iron, certain iron tools, and the most difficult, an 800-meter ground stake. The wood problem has long been solved. With the recent increase to 6 in the earth-digging realm, iron and iron tools are no longer issues. As for the most difficult part regarding the ground stakes, only a little over 100 meters remain. All 4 challenges have been overcome, and the construction for the new Great Xia residence has officially begun. Regarding the new residence, Xia Hong only proposed a concept. The actual construction will undoubtedly need guidance from the professional Mu Dong. Beside the iron refining furnace, Mu Dong placed a giant wooden board, facing everyone directly. Carved on the board was a 3-story wooden house, with spires at the 4 corners of the roof and 12 pillars inside, providing an incredibly spacious interior. Although the wooden house was only outlined, showing few details, a majestic and grand feeling surged, making everyone by the furnace reveal a trace of longing in their eyes. Seeing the longing expressions on everyone's faces, Mu Dong felt a bit excited himself. He pointed to the design on the board and explained the construction ideas for the new residence to everyone. According to the leader's concept, each of the 4 sides is 200 meters long and 15 meters high, with 3 internal floors. Leaving aside everything else for now, stabilizing such a large structure is not an easy task. So here's what I'm thinking. The main body on all 4 sides will be made with whole golden frost wood logs. Due to the ground stake width, the embedded golden frost wood thickness can only be 3 meters, but for the walls above ground, we can double the thickness to 6 meters. At the junctions of the 4 wooden walls, besides tenon and mortise joints, we will reinforce it with iron posts, both inside and outside. Below the ground stakes, use the iron cables made by the leader during this time to link all 4 wooden walls together, embedding them into the ground to ensure stability. Finally, erect 12 load-bearing pillars inside the wooden house, embedding iron posts of equal length within the load-bearing pillars to connect with the beams, ensuring that the top won't collapse. Additionally, the internal space. With each explanation Mu Dong provided, the design on the board became clearer and more apparent under everyone's gaze. As they deepened their understanding of the new wooden house, looks of amazement gradually appeared on everyone's faces, and their longing eyes grew even more intense than before. Even Xia Hong, who proposed the new wooden house idea, couldn't help but feel astonished at Mu Dong's imaginative thinking during his explanation. According to Mu Dong, the new house's outer walls alone are 6 meters thick. The 4 walls are each 15 meters high, totaling 800 meters, all made with single logs of golden frost wood. Roughly calculating, even using golden frost trees with a 6-meter diameter, they would need nearly 200 trees. And that's just for the 4 outer walls. Considering the top, bottom, 3 interior floors and single-layer partitions, the wood required is beyond count. Not to mention, crucial parts need additional reinforcement with iron. Of course, if the new residence were just for improving living conditions, the enormous cost would be unjustifiable. After Mu Dong finished explaining the entire structure, Xia Hong kept his gaze on him, clearly waiting for his further words. Xia Hong, who proposed the new residence concept, is naturally most concerned about something. Mu Dong knew this and without hesitation, after pondering for a moment, spoke directly. As planned, once the new residence is completed, considering its sturdiness, no low-level cold beast can break in. Even a cold beast with a strong impact like the snow mane can't breach it unless in large quantities, like 100 rampaging simultaneously. Otherwise, it won't be able to break through. So in the future, even during the daytime, we aren't afraid of being exposed to light. We can boldly light fires without any worry of cold beast attacks. Moreover, even if they come, as long as there aren't too many, we can use the wooden house's defenses to directly hunt them. Mu Dong hadn't finished his sentence before Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan interrupted. Upon hearing their words, Mu Dong thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Indeed, and because the key connecting parts of the main structure are reinforced with iron, there's virtually no chance of destruction. Even if other parts get damaged, we can always fix them with wood. As Mu Dong finished speaking, everyone below showed smiles of joy and excitement, with many even standing up in excitement. What are we waiting for, leader? Let's start building. That's right, not to mention this wooden house now. This new residence is even better than the 5 large wooden houses of the previous Rojal camp. Let's begin construction. Leader, start the construction. Yes, let's begin immediately. I can't wait any longer. Faced with the current scene of excitement, Xia Hong wasn't surprised at all. Comfort is certainly a common pursuit for humanity, but compared to safety, it's not important at all. The new wooden house had been in preparation for half a year primarily because of safety considerations. If it were only about building the kind of large wooden houses previously at Rojal camp, it wouldn't have taken half a year. Perhaps it could have been done in half a month with the camp's current capabilities. The reason for using so much iron was because Xia Hong wanted to build a solid residence capable of withstanding low-level cold beast attacks. The greatest threat around Redwood Ridge is actually the cold beasts. More precisely, it's the low-level cold beasts continually expanding outward from within Redwood Ridge. As for the deceitful monsters, since the death of the wood puppet monster, there hasn't been any sight of them for a long time in the surrounding areas. The climate remains as harsh as ever, but with the iron refining furnace, it's not an issue. Xia Hong can control the camp's activity range based on the terrain, and as long as it's within this familiar small circle, there's no problem for now. Currently known human threats are limited to the camps of Lu Shang and Chen Yi, which don't pose any danger. Chapter 108, Chapter 105, New Home Construction, Strength Bottleneck 2 and 1/2. Except for these few kinds, only the cold beasts are currently the only and greatest threat. Especially in the past 6 months, as the hunting abilities of Great Xia have been continuously improving. Under such frequent hunting, Xia Hong found that the cold beasts on the periphery showed no signs of significantly decreasing, making him even more aware of this point. The current hunting range of Great Xia, though controlled by him, is only within 500 meters of the periphery, but the north-south span has expanded to 5 or 6 kilometers. In the past 6 months, although he hasn't calculated precisely, at least nearly 300 low-level cold beasts have been hunted and killed. Based on the size and density of the cold beasts, it is impossible for so many cold beasts to be entrenched in such a tiny area within 500 meters of the periphery, and 5 or 6 kilometers north and south. There is only one explanation for this situation. The cold beasts from the inner area are continuously expanding outwards, and their expansion speed is faster than that of Great Xia's hunting speed. This terrifying expansion speed of the cold beasts makes Xia Hong feel anxious. Especially the experience of being attacked by the frost wolves in groups on the night. They migrated from the dirt slope to the valley, often keeps him from sleeping day or night. The cold beasts are powerful and cunning creatures. Once they group together, their danger level becomes extremely terrifying. Although Great Xia's strength is now incomparable to before, if they were to encounter the frost wolf pack from that night again, the outcome would definitely not be so disastrous. But what if the frost wolf pack they encounter next time is even larger? Or what if it's not a frost wolf pack, but a snow mane group, or an even stronger cold beast group? The deceitful monsters are also terrifying, but more out of the unknown. Fortunately, with the iron refining furnace, torches, and solidified fire oil, Xia Hong has some reliance on them. Cold beasts are different, as they are not only unafraid of these items but even quite fond of them. Judging by the cold beasts' eagerness for the torches, once they discover the iron refining furnace, their frenzy would certainly be unimaginable. The most critical issue is that cold beast activity usually occurs during the day. So if the iron refining furnace is discovered by cold beasts, it's most likely to happen during the day, when the cold beasts are stronger and, due to the extremely low temperatures, the camp cannot keep the fire out for long periods. So if one day the expanding cold beast population within Redwood Ridge finds the iron refining furnace in the valley. For the Great Xia camp, which hasn't constructed solid defensive works, it would definitely be a huge disaster, and the outcome would be even worse than when Rojal camp encountered the wood puppet monster. In the past 6 months, Xia Hong has refrained from increasing any weapons for the camp, instead using nearly all the iron ore, coal stone, and a large quantity of timber to prepare for building new residences, for this very reason. The instinct of staying alert in peace is inherent in humans. The pursuit of a safe and stable environment is not unique to Xia Hong. Other people in the camp may not see as far as Xia Hong, but they share the same fears and worries about cold beasts and deceitful monsters. So, upon hearing that the upcoming new residence construction can withstand the impact of low-level cold beasts, even large numbers of them, They became so excited and even eager to commence construction immediately. All right, starting tonight, break ground and start construction. Apart from hunting, all other camp activities are suspended, and everyone is to participate in getting the new residence built as quickly as possible. With Xia Hong's order amid the enthusiastic camp atmosphere filled with excitement. Everyone in the Great Xia camp, except for Xia Hong and the 15 people in the hunting team, all more than 800 other people, have been fully engaged in the grand project of building new residences. The construction project of the new wooden houses is heavy and vast, added to the fact that the wood and iron materials from the Ice Abyss world are far heavier than usual. Normally, without mechanical aid, it would be impossible to complete such work with just manpower like in the past. But not here. Led by Mudong, with the collaborative efforts of 130 logging realm helpers, massive golden frost woods cut earlier are being erected and neatly embedded into previously set ground stakes. Those in the reserve forces who are not far from the logging realm, although not strong enough themselves, display remarkable strength when cooperating, working together to install and fix some small wooden or iron parts designed by Mudong into the main body of the wooden house. Among the remaining 500 people, more than 100 are robust men over 30 years old. Though not receiving much cold beast meat due to age limitations, they still have foundational strength of at least 1 or 2,000 pounds, making them unable to bear the brunt of construction but sufficiently capable to assist as needed. Even more than 300 children under the age of 13 are helping to hand over tools, deliver water and food, and some of the older ones, whose strength has started to grow, are also aiding those robust men with their tasks. With such a high drive for construction, no one in the entire camp, except those without the ability to work, slacks off. Even members of the hunting team, when not out in the field, are drawn in by this enthusiasm and uncontrollably help out. In this atmosphere, the progress of building the new residences quickly advanced. On the very night Xia Hong announced the beginning, the west wooden wall was already erected. On the second night, the south wooden wall stood up. On the third night, the north side, the fourth night. The valley seemed to transform significantly each night. Since Mudong was overseeing such a large project for the first time, worrying about the lack of experience might lead to safety issues, Xia Hong personally supervised the first 3 nights. Upon discovering that the current physical conditions of the camp people made safety issues unlikely, he no longer monitored it, instead devoting his energy to hunting and mining. Chapter 109, Chapter 105, New Home Construction, Strength Bottleneck 2 and 1/3. The outskirts of Redwood Ridge, at a boundary of 500 meters. Xia Hong with a few people hid in a tree, all staring below. Under the tree were 5 people, 4 of whom held large knives, while one held a black dagger, all carrying longbows, surrounding a snow mane over 4 meters long. The snow mane had a ferocious face, red pupils, and was panting heavily. Its right leg was clamped by a half-meter diameter animal trap. Dark green blood had flowed down from the trap onto the ground, clearly indicating a severe injury. Roar! With an angry roar, the snow mane violently charged at the nearest person. That person was the only one among the 5 who did not carry a large knife, only a black small dagger. Apparently the snow mane judged him to be the weakest, hence it chose him. However, the snow mane obviously chose the wrong person. Seeing the snow mane charging at him, the person remained unfazed, not even choosing to dodge sideways, just stood still, raised the dagger and positioned it to block the charge. A dagger to block the charge of a snow mane. If outsiders saw this, they would probably think this person insane. But Luo Yuan and the other 4 present, as well as Xia Hong and the others on the tree, all remained unfazed, watching, waiting for Xia Chuan's next move. Bang! As the snow mane charged to within over a meter from Xia Chuan, a bang sound suddenly erupted from his head, and it could advance no further. At this critical moment, Xia Chuan's pupils contracted sharply, and he instantly reversed his grip on the knife, thrusting at the snow mane's pupils. Squelchy! Though the dagger was only 3 inches long, it hit the eyeball, the weakest spot, causing intense pain that did not make the snow mane scream or roar. Its remaining pupil gleamed with fierceness. It turned its head rapidly, and 2 sharp fangs thrust toward Xia Chuan's head while its tongue swiftly flew out, wrapping around Xia Chuan's neck and limbs in a flash. Watch out! Oh no, be careful! Chuan dodged quickly. Don't let it wrap around you. That snow mane, unbelievably, could endure the pain of a pierced eyeball to launch such a frenzied and desperate counterattack. In an instant, everybody present, including Luo Yuan and the others, as well as those waiting in the tree, all exclaimed in surprise, loudly warning Xia Chuan. Only Xia Hong remained silent, just watching with furrowed brows. The nearest ones, Luo Yuan and others, reacted by promptly pulling on the rope tied to the animal trap on the snow mane's right leg while shouting warnings. The four of them pulled the rope fiercely together, pulling the snow mane backward in an instant, rendering its fang attack on Xia Chuan ineffective. However, its long tongue was overly close to Xia Chuan. Even though its body was pulled back, the tongue still quickly wrapped around him. At the moment of the snow mane's counterattack, Xia Chuan's eyes showed a hint of panic, clearly unexpected, but thanks to Luo Yuan and others pulling the rope, he quickly responded by drawing his knife back to avoid the long tongue. Unfortunately, though he retreated quickly, he only avoided the neck. One right leg was already wrapped by the long tongue. Seeing this, the snow mane's red pupils flashed with malice, clearly intending to harden the tongue to sever Xia Chuan's legs. Xia Chuan flicked his left hand lightly, sending several strands of the white thread frantically towards the snow mane's long tongue, but the tongue had already adhered tightly to the right leg, unable to be blocked. At this very moment, a hint of tension finally showed in Xia Chuan's eyes. Bang! Snap! At this critical moment, a broad figure suddenly leaped down from the tree, landing on the snow mane's neck, forcibly pinning its head into the snow. Along with that figure fell a swift and violent flash of a knife. The large knife sliced through as if nothing was there, producing only a faint snap, severing several spines on the snow mane's back and slicing vertically into its back. This slash nearly split the snow mane's body in half. To know, this cut was into the hardest part of the snow mane's back. The snow mane's pupils lost their fierce gleam, and the long tongue, which it intended to harden, instantly went limp and fell to the ground, unable to retract. Bang! The snow mane collapsed with a crash, and everyone around, seeing the huge slash on its back, couldn't help but swallow before looking up at Xia Hong with eyes full of admiration and respect. But Xia Hong simply expressionlessly withdrew the long knife from the snow mane, and then turned to slap Xia Chuan across the face. Slap! The crisp sound of the slap made Luo Yuan and the four others tense up. Xia Chuan, who was slapped, immediately lowered his head, his face full of guilt. Do you know why I hit you? Xia Chuan raised his head, showing no dissatisfaction, and answered solemnly, I shouldn't be careless. Even if the snow mane was mortally wounded, it wouldn't give up and would instead become more ferocious, unleashing more strength. The battle was not over, and I got careless. The leader slapped me to remind me to be more cautious in the future. Xia Hong nodded, then looked at Luo Yuan and the four others, sternly reprimanding. And you four, the snow mane was not dead, yet you started dazing, thinking Xia Chuan's strength could handle it, so it didn't matter. I've told you countless times, while hunting, any slightest carelessness can cost you or others lives. Have you forgotten, or do you not believe it? Luo Yuan and the four others immediately lowered their heads, faces full of guilt. Slap, slap, slap. After more than 10 breaths, Luo Yuan first raised his head and slapped his own face 3 times heavily. Leader, I was wrong. I will remember this in the future. Leader, we were also wrong. We will remember this in the future. The 3 Zhao Long brothers did the same, each with a face full of remorse. Seeing the solemnity on the 5 people's faces, Xia Hong took a deep breath, looked towards the inner side of Redwood Ridge, and suppressed the annoyance in his heart, saying in a deep voice, with your 5's current strength, using animal traps, hunting lower-level cold beasts should be more than manageable, but looking at it now, for the past half-year while hunting with me, you've learned nothing. To kill a single adult snow mane, you had to pay with a leg. If I were to hand over the hunting team to you now, in a few days, the entire camp would probably have just me, as the only earth-digging realm with all limbs intact. Hearing Xia Hong's words, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the others immediately turned red-faced. This hunt today was proposed by them to Xia Hong, intending to show him their hunting ability, to reassure him to entrust the hunting team to them. Now, looking like this, and being ridiculed by Xia Hong as well. The shame in the hearts of the 5 must be beyond words. Extend it by 1 more month, and if you are still like this after a month, then continue extending. I want to see how long it takes for you few big babies to hunt without me. Even a clay figure has a temper, let alone the 5 most outstanding people in the Daxia camp. Xia Hong's continued mockery made Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan breathe more rapidly. Seeing the reactions of the 5 stimulated, Xia Hong's face remained expressionless, but in his heart he was rather satisfied. The strength of the 5 was no longer the problem. The only issue was their mindset. Perhaps in the past, hunting with him did not require much thought, nor was it as tense, so they often became careless and sloppy. Facing cunning cold beasts with such a mindset was the most dangerous. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the others' desire to take over hunting was actually out of good intention, wanting to spare him, the leader, from hard work. Of course, Xia Hong would love to hand over the hunting responsibilities to them. Firstly, he indeed did not want to work so hard. Secondly, he needed more time to study his cultivation. His basic strength had already increased to 20,000 jins. Not knowing if it was an illusion, Xia Hong felt that recently consuming cold beast meat did not increase his strength as before. Let's go back and try first. Is it possible that I've hit a bottleneck? After instructing everyone to collect the prey, a trace of contemplation flashed in Xia Hong's eyes. The limit of the earth-digging realm is clearly 30,000 jins. This bottleneck at 20,000 jins, what is it all about? Could it be that cold beast meat is no longer effective? Chapter 110, Chapter 106, Expanding Hunting Grounds, Camp Expansion 3-in-1. In the valley, the construction of the new residence is in full swing. The 15-meter-high wooden walls on all sides have been erected, and the internal load-bearing columns are being constructed in conjunction with the roof. One after another, the already cut giant pieces of golden frost wood are being continuously transported to various parts of the wooden house for installation. Countless iron materials are also being collectively transported to various locations to assist with the construction. Clink thunk. Pass me a piece of wood over here. Old Yuan, we need a hammer here. Bring it over quickly. Coming. They still need 4 planks over there, each 7 meters long. Get some people to move them quickly. In the valley, the bustling crowd is everywhere, full of busy figures hurrying around, and the clanking and banging sounds from the iron and wooden materials and tools are constant. Nowadays in Great Xia, unlike half a year ago, Xia Hong and others returning with prey is no longer something novel. People merely greet them, but the majority remain fully engrossed in their construction work. After instructing someone to process the cold beast, Xia Hong walked into the wooden house alone, found the force measuring stake, and after fiddling with it for a while, his already furrowed brows grew even more serious. Just over 20,000 pounds, it seems I wasn't mistaken. The cold beast meat I'm eating currently has a negligible effect on my enhancement. What could be the reason? In the first month after moving into the valley, Xia Hong's basic strength increased from 13,000 to 15,000. In the subsequent 5 months, by the day the new house broke ground, he had measured just over 20,000. By today, the 11th day since the new house started construction, his basic strength has only increased by at most 1 or 200. As basic strength increases, the rate of improvement slows down. An initial jump of 2,000 in the first month, followed by a gradual decrease each month, is understandable. But to drop to only 100 or so pounds in 10 days is clearly not normal. Looking at the string of cold beast meat hanging by the stove, Xia Hong seemed lost in thought. The more I eat cold beast meat, the less heat my body generates and the increase in basic strength diminishes. Logically, this means that lower-level cold beast meat no longer works on me, so must I eat intermediate cold beasts meat to continue improving? This thought popped into Xia Hong's mind, and he shook his head vigorously. Not to mention the lower-level cold beasts, the ones he's encountered so far are only 3 kinds. There are still 3 more he hasn't seen in the cold beast scroll left by Luo Ming. He knows nothing about what intermediate cold beasts are like or how strong they are. In this situation, let alone hunting them, he might not even be able to save his own life if he accidentally bumps into one. It doesn't necessarily have to be intermediate cold beasts. The cold beast meat I've eaten so far comprises only snow mane, frost wolf, and demon sheep. Maybe my body has developed immunity to these 3 types of cold beast meat, and trying others might still be effective. Xia Hong considered a second possibility. After eating cold beast meat, the body heats up. This symptom is very much like signs of poisoning. Moreover, the cold beast meat is azure, and the blood is dark green. Considering these two features, it's not hard to deduce that cold beast meat should have some degree of toxicity, and humans increase their basic strength by absorbing its essence, which certainly has a limit. At least for lower level, or the three types of cold beast meat Xia Hong has encountered, it's like this. Wild guesses are useless. To be safe, I'll continue slowly increasing with these three kinds of cold beast meat. As long as it still works, I'll eventually hit the 30,000 pounds limit, though it might take a bit longer. Being bolder, I'll expand the hunting range and test other three kinds to see if my guess is correct. Xia Hong took out the cold beast atlas left by Luo Ming. After contemplating the last three types of cold beasts, he made a decision. According to this, the other three kinds of cold beasts, despite having different abilities, still fall under the lower-level cold beasts category. As long as I'm careful, there shouldn't be any issues, plus the spinal cord of the cloud mist Teng Jiao is a necessary material for making bows, originally an essential item. If Luo Ming could successfully hunt them with a team, so can I. The importance of bows and arrows isn't fully evident in the hands of people in the logging realm. After all, with the strength of those in the logging realm, even if they hit a cold beast at most, they'd injure it. Killing it is completely impossible. But in the hands of people in the earth-digging realm, it's different. An arrow shot with 10,000 pounds of force inflicts greater damage on cold beasts, and coupled with the earth-digging realm's inherent ability to confront lower-level cold beasts head-on, their hunting success rate should certainly be higher with bows and arrows. Especially considering that the bows and arrows currently used by the camp are only ordinary iron and not 10 forged level iron. When Xia Hong noticed this earlier, he began to plan. With a plentiful supply of iron ore, in the future, each member of the great Xia hunting team will definitely be equipped with a broadsword and a set of bows and arrows. Although the timber in this world is strong, it can't compare to the even stronger basic strength of humans. To make bows and arrows usable by both logging realm and earth-digging realm individuals, the bow body and arrowheads must be made of pure iron, and since the bowstring needs to withstand tension, the material requirements are the most stringent. It must be made from the spinal cord of a cloud mist Teng Jiao. The cold beast atlas left by Luo Ming states clearly that the spinal cord of a single cloud mist Teng Jiao can be drawn out to a length of 30 meters, enough to make at least 10 longbows. Expand the hunting range, prioritize finding cloud mist Teng Jiao, and the other two cold beasts can wait. Given my current strength, taking 5 earth-digging realm individuals with me shouldn't lead to any unforeseen events. Chapter 111, Chapter 106 Expanding Hunting Grounds, Camp Expansion 3-in-1/2. Xia Hong made up his mind and quickly gathered Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the other 3. The 5 of them held weapons, their upper bodies bare and their foreheads slick with sweat, clearly indicating the substantial impact Xia Hong had just delivered, causing them to plunge into intense training upon their return. Seeing their diligence, Xia Hong's expression showed a hint of comfort. Chuan, how much cold beast meat does the camp currently have in reserve? 176,820 jin. Xia Chuan reported the number almost without hesitation. Upon hearing this astonishing figure, neither Luo Yuan, Zhao Long, nor Xia Hong showed any change in their expressions, as if it were routine. Since they were responsible for the hunting, they generally had a rough idea of the number of cold beasts they had killed over the past half-year, so the number didn't surprise them. The meat distribution system seemed highly consuming, but that was based on insufficient hunting ability. Carefully calculating according to the earliest method, the hunting team, logging team, and reserves consumed about 700 jin per day, totaling 21,000 jin a month, adding the 2,000 jin monthly for those under 13, and finally the large share for Xia Hong, it would be at most 25,000 jin. 6 months ago, Xia Hong led the team and hunted 3 cold beasts on the first night, acquiring a total of 4,200 jin of cold beast meat. Therefore, as hunting ability improved, the surplus cold beast meat rapidly increased, and the rate of reserve growth was quite formidable. It's noteworthy that when the meat distribution system was first implemented 6 months ago, in the first 6 days, the camp's cold beast meat had overflowed by over 10,000 jin. Even without considering the later enhancement in the hunting team's strength, accounting for 10,000 jin every 6 days, after 6 months, the cold beast meat reserve should be at least over 300,000 jin. In fact, if Xia Hong hadn't spent significant time on mining, iron forging, and building new wooden houses, the cold beast meat reserves would have easily exceeded 300,000 and more. 17,000 jin, that's enough for the camp for many days, right? Hearing this question, Xia Chuan showed a peculiar smile, shook his head and replied. Currently, the camp has 140 logging realm, excluding the 10 in the hunting team. The remaining 130 are all part of the collection team and logging team, and a few are taken in by the camp supply station and craftsman workshop, with a daily quota of 5 jin. The reserves have recently been replenished with a batch, totaling 212, and this part's daily quota is directly calculated at 2 jin, plus the 372 individuals under 13. They receive monthly allocations averaging 60 jin per day. Including the head and the 5 of us, our current daily consumption of cold beast meat is roughly 1,300 jin. Considering the current camp's cold beast meat reserves, even if we don't hunt for 4 months, it wouldn't be a problem. Xia Chuan, as the camp supply officer, was evidently quite competent. Whether it was the total reserves of cold beast meat or the current consumption in the camp, he was well acquainted and discussed it eloquently, drawing a few nods of approval not only from Xia Hong but from Luo Yuan and the others as well. Though Xia Hong had a general idea about the consumption of cold beast meat, it wasn't as precise as Xia Chuan's report. 6 months ago, with a hunting team composed of 15 logging realm, Xia Hong could lead them to kill 3 cold beasts in one night, gaining a total of over 4,200 jin of cold beast meat, not to mention now. Yet now, the daily consumption of cold beast meat in the camp was only 1,300 jin. This meant that the hunting ability of Great Xia had already far exceeded the demand of the current camp's population. Leader, the cold beast meat surplus is huge. I think we can also recruit those over 30 into the reserves. These people are in their prime, and as long as they have a fixed cold beast meat quota, they could break through to the logging realm. All right, you can handle this matter. Without much thought, Xia Hong agreed to Xia Chuan's suggestion. The number of people over 30 in the camp was fewer than 200, so even bringing them all into the reserves would only increase daily consumption by 300 to 400 jin, which wasn't much. Besides, try gathering a group of children ranging from 6 to 13 years old to find the lower age limit for the reserves. As long as they can cultivate normally after eating cold beast meat, they can be included in the reserves in the future. Xia Chuan's eyes lit up as he heard this, and he immediately nodded. The 4 others around, especially Luo Yuan and Zhao Long, couldn't help but widen their eyes and show a look of excitement. The current requirement for the reserves set the minimum age at 13, which was previously based on numbers rather than actual cultivation age. If relaxed, the number of reserves would increase significantly. Determining the age restriction for the consumption of cold beast meat was a highly strategic task set by Xia Hong, and once this experiment was completed, it would mean that in the future, children in Great Xia could receive cold beast meat as soon as they reached the cultivation age. This was no trivial matter. Reproduction is one of the most basic and stable human concepts. Hoping for better conditions for the next generation and wishing them a better life is entirely normal. Luo Yuan and Zhao Long had families and children, which explained their intense reaction to Xia Hong's words. Xia Hong didn't think as far ahead as Luo Yuan and the others. His initial intention was simply to consume more cold beast meat. Though there was no risk of cold beast meat spoiling, idly sitting on it meant it was just a pile of dead stuff. Turning it into strength was where its true value lay. After a moment's thought, Xia Hong turned to look at Luo Yuan and the others, asking, "Additionally, Luo Yuan among you, who knows the locations of Chen Yi and Lu Shang's camps?" Hearing this, Luo Yuan paused for a moment but quickly caught on, an excited expression on his face as he nodded. "I know roughly where they are. Give me some time and I can find them quickly. Leader, are you planning to absorb the people from those 2 camps?" Chapter 112. Chapter 106. Expand the hunting grounds, camp expansion 3-in-1/3. Xia Hong maintained a calm expression and nodded. The hunting ability has already far exceeded capacity, and the cold beast meat has overflowed to such an extent. Increasing the population base and expanding the camp size is a natural progression. In fact, he had been considering it 3 months ago, but at that time the excess cold beast meat wasn't too much. Plus, since Great Xia had only recently absorbed 4 groups, the cohesion wasn't very strong, so it was delayed until now. Currently, Great Xia is resource-rich. The reserves of cold beast meat are sufficient, and staple foods like crystal fruit are in vast quantities. The new residences about to be completed, according to Xia Hong's earlier design, can accommodate over 10,000 people, whereas the camp currently has only 902 people. Even with the addition of Lu Shang and Chen Yi's camps, which together total no more than 500 or 600 people, Great Xia can sustain them. It can also provide them with opportunities for cultivation. As for whether these two camps would agree to merge into Great Xia, it's not even a concern for Xia Hong. Plentiful food, comfortable sleep, warm clothing, a safer and more stable environment, plus an ample quota of cold beast meat, and the opportunity for everyone to cultivate. As long as Chen Ying and Lu He, the two leaders, are not fools, they know how to choose. All right, I'll find time to head north to meet Lu He and Chen Ying later. Once the leaders find out we're willing to take in the two camps, they will surely be ecstatic. These two camps combined have over 500 people. Once they join, Great Xia's total population will be about 1,500, not far from the standard of a large camp. As soon as Luo Yuan finished speaking, Xia Chuan eagerly added a sentence. The others, upon hearing the words large camp, were immensely excited. Even Xia Hong couldn't help but feel the same. Even the previously strongest Rojal camp had a population of only about 13 to 1,400 at its peak. In the surrounding areas of Redwood Ridge for decades, there has never been a large camp. Once Great Xia achieves this accomplishment, it would mark an unprecedented historical milestone for the surroundings of Redwood Ridge. More importantly, such a great achievement was accomplished by Xia Hong, the leader, in just over a year. Realizing this, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and Zhao Long, along with the other two, all turned to look at Xia Hong, visibly moved, not hiding their fervor and admiration at all. In the coming month, during hunts, I will not take action unless absolutely necessary, and the 5 of you will be the main force. I hope you won't let me down and can successfully take over the hunting team from me in a month. Upon hearing these words, the 5 nodded solemnly. After contemplating for a moment, Xia Hong continued, "If you perform well next month, I'll take the 5 of you to expand the hunting area and venture another 500 meters into Redwood Ridge." Hearing Xia Hong announce the expansion of the hunting area, the 5 became instantly excited. The curiosity for the unknown and the desire to explore are timeless primal urges within humanity, just as present in Xia Hong as in Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan. For humans in the ice abyss, to be sure, they are unfortunate, with dangers everywhere and crises at every turn, where death is a commonplace occurrence. But in a certain sense, they are also fortunate, because, for them, there are far too many unknown things waiting to be explored. Take Great Xia Camp. For example, the area beyond 500 meters into Redwood Ridge is completely unknown to them, let alone the regions further in. Of course, it's not just Redwood Ridge. On Luo Ming's map, there's the frozen river on the southern side of Redwood Ridge, the arrow bamboo forest on the northern side, the Pinxi Plain beyond the small path through the arrow bamboo forest, and so on. Even the valleys where Great Xia Camp resides, and what lies on the mountains on either side, remain entirely unknown to them. Of course, curiosity is one thing, and no matter how strong the desire for exploration is, Xia Hong won't act recklessly, understanding he has but one life. With the improvement of strength, gradually expanding the exploration range is the most prudent approach. Currently, the basic strength amplification provided by cold beast meat is negligible, so Xia Hong temporarily gave up cultivating and allocated all his time in the camp to practice archery and blade forging. After realizing the importance of bows and arrows, Xia Hong made a strict rule that everyone at Great Xia Camp, regardless of who they are, must practice archery, and appointed Shi Qing as the chief instructor. Shi Qing, finally having a legitimate task, especially one appointed by Xia Hong personally, was very dedicated. The camp originally had only 11 bows and arrows, so he innovatively instructed the craftsman workshop to use wood and cold beast tendon to create a batch of imitation bows, specifically for those who hadn't yet reached the logging realm to practice with. For those in the logging realm, their basic strength was too great for imitation bows, so Shi Qing requested Xia Hong's approval to permanently keep one of the 11 bows from the hunting team in the camp for practice, which was granted by Xia Hong. With only one bow in the camp, it certainly wasn't sufficient for over 100 people in the logging realm, but at present, there were no alternatives. Those wishing to practice archery had to either queue up or wait for when the hunting team wasn't venturing out so they could use the 10 bows left idle for practice. Being the leader, Xia Hong naturally had certain privileges, and whenever he practiced archery, Shi Qing would accompany him for guidance. With this archery master present, Xia Hong's archery skills improved rapidly. The second matter, blade forging, was in preparation for those about to break through to the earth-digging realm. The camp currently had 6 individuals at the earth-digging realm, but considering the shock-cold blade in Xia Hong's possession, there were only 5 10-forged blades in total. If not for Xia Chuan having the wood puppet black blade, leaving him without the need for a 10-forged blade, the 6 would not even have a complete set of weapons. Chapter 113. Chapter 106. Expand the hunting grounds, camp expansion 3-in-1/4. With weapons in the logging realm, at most you gain some self-defense abilities. The earth-digging realm is different. When equipped with 10 forged weapons, they can truly break through the defenses of lower-level cold beasts, significantly enhancing their power. Taking advantage of the current surplus of iron ore and the fact that there are no other immediate needs, we should first prepare a batch of weapons to be reserved for those who will later break through to the earth-digging realm. It's always wise to be prepared. The extraordinary nature of the polishing stone is now evident. From smelting iron, shaping, hammering out the forging patterns to the final sharpening, it requires very little skill, only the strength of the earth-digging realm, and the entire process can be completed in just one night. Now the camp has more than just one person in the earth-digging realm. With the polishing stone, Xia Hong naturally wouldn't craft the weapons himself as he did in the past, but instead entrusted the task to Xia Chuan, Zhao Long, and the others. Of course, during the forging, he still had to supervise. The standard broadsword used in the camp requires 600 to 700 pounds of iron ore for each one made. This amount of iron ore is enough for 6 earth-digging realm individuals to dig for a whole day, so waste is definitely not acceptable. Naturally, Xia Hong did not hand over the forging tasks just to be lazy. The main reason was to see if there are any individuals among the current earth-digging realm with a talent for forging. If someone like him, who knows nothing about forging, can easily create 10 forged weapons using a polishing stone, then if someone with a talent for forging takes over, it should be even easier, and they might even forge more powerful weapons on the existing foundation. Unfortunately, after observing Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the 3 Zhao brothers, the 5 of them were clearly only interested in the weapons themselves and did not have any special talent for forging. Xia Hong was not discouraged, however, as talent is often built upon a large population base. Once more people break through to the earth-digging realm, it's only a matter of time before someone with a talent for forging emerges. Of course, practicing archery individually and forging weapons with Xia Chuan and the others were just things Xia Hong did in his spare time when he stayed at the camp and didn't go out. Currently, hunting and mining remain the primary tasks of the great Xia. There is no need to mention mining, as both coal and iron are essential and in-demand resources. Since there is such an overflow of cold beast meat, it is only logical to allocate more time to mining. Xia Hong intended to hand over the hunting duties to Xia Chuan and the others, so during subsequent hunting trips, to train the hunting team, he would only watch and not take action unless necessary. Perhaps the previous experiment against the snow mane, which nearly ended in failure, had a motivating and mocking effect given by Xia Hong. In the hunts that followed, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the 5 of them became much more cautious. Their hunting techniques became increasingly proficient, and their harvests grew increasingly abundant. More importantly, there were no more dangerous situations. Xia Hong observed their rapid improvement and was naturally satisfied, also relaxing the restrictions on the 5 of them, allowing them to conduct hunting activities as they wished, while he only watched from the side to prevent accidents and gave no advice or orders. After a few attempts, confirming that they indeed possessed the ability to hunt jointly, Xia Hong truly felt at ease and began to intentionally distance himself in subsequent hunts, letting them hunt independently. Half a month later, on the northern side of the Redwood Ridge's outskirts, bang! A full-grown golden-eyed demon sheep crashed to the ground. More than a dozen sharp arrows were embedded in its back. A half-meter-wide animal trap was dragging on its right leg. A white silk thread was tightly wound around its neck. 7 or 8 deep cuts on its abdomen were gushing dark green blood. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the three Zhao brothers were gathered around the demon sheep's corpse, breathing heavily. Yet their expressions were excited, their eyes filled with exhilaration, showing no trace of fatigue. Among the three Zhao brothers, Zhao Hu had the most impulsive personality. As soon as the battle ended, he rushed to the demon sheep's body, pulled out the sharp arrows from its back, and upon discovering that the golden-eyed demon sheep's eyes were intact, his expression became even more excited. He turned to Xia Chuan and the others. Just now, none of those arrows hit the demon sheep's golden eyes, so did the five of us slaughter the demon sheep head-on. Upon hearing this, the other four did not respond, but the excitement shown in their expressions was no less than Zhao Hu's. The power of the golden-eyed demon sheep was absolutely above that of the snow mane, especially before its eye on the back was mortally wounded. Hiding in the trees and using arrows against the golden-eyed demon sheep is indeed a tried and true method, but it doesn't always work. The demon sheep is not stupid and won't just stand still to be shot at. Moreover, cold beasts can climb trees. Without someone facing the demon sheep head-on the ground, just a few archers have no real chance of hunting it, and remarkable archers are also affected by the environment, weather, wind direction, or even personal factors, which can affect their accuracy. It just so happened that this demon sheep inhabited a golden frost tree in a very open area tonight. There were no other suitable large trees nearby for the other 10 to hide in and set up bows, so they had no choice but to choose a farther position. It's not that they didn't want to stand closer. Yuan Cheng and the other 10 only had the strength of the logging realm. If they were too close and got targeted by cold beasts, they wouldn't even have time to run. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the 5 earth-digging realm fighters would then not only have to deal with the cold beasts but also worry about protecting the 10 of them, which would be more trouble than it's worth. Being further away, as expected, affected their accuracy. Out of 10 bows, not one arrow hit the golden-eyed demon sheep's back eye. In desperation, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the 5 had no choice but to face it head-on. Who would have thought that the 5 of them working together really managed to strangle the demon sheep? Snow mane, frost wolf, and demon sheep, although all are lower-level cold beasts, in terms of size and strength, the demon sheep is by far the strongest. The fact that the 5 could slaughter this demon sheep head-on not only proves their strength, but also means they truly have the capability to take over the hunting team from Xia Hong. This is why the 5 are so excited. Is the leader not here? He left earlier on, probably went exploring on the inside again. Such a symbolic moment, and Xia Hong didn't witness it himself, leaving everyone somewhat disappointed. However, after hearing Xia Chuan's subsequent words, Luo Yuan and the others became even more excited. In recent days, Xia Hong had not been accompanying the hunting team, but instead ventured beyond the 500-meter boundary on his own to explore the interior terrain of Redwood Ridge, in preparation for expanding the hunting range of the camp. Let's pack up and head back. 2 pieces of prey tonight are more than enough. Upon hearing Xia Chuan's words, everyone nodded. Earlier, they had already hunted a frost wolf, and with this demon sheep, without Xia Hong leading, managing to hunt 2 cold beasts in one night was already quite impressive. When Xia Hong returns and learns of their success in slaughtering the golden-eyed demon sheep head-on, he will surely be pleased, and he might even hand over the hunting duties to them earlier. Everyone collected the animal trap and the golden-eyed demon sheep from the ground, and prepared to set off for home with excitement. Only Luo Yuan turned to look north, thought for a moment, and spoke to Xia Chuan. It's still early before dawn, and this place is close to the territory of Chen Yi camp. I'll go find Chen Ying to discuss what the leader mentioned earlier. You all go back first. Hearing this, Xia Chuan's eyes lit up, and he nodded immediately. Luo Yuan then left the team and swiftly headed north. Chapter 114. Chapter 107. The Tremendous Peril of the North Slope Cliff 3-in-1 Mega Chapter. If we still can't find them in Redwood Ridge tonight, we'll have to search the northern side of the mountain wall. This Chen Yi camp is really well hidden. On the northern side of Redwood Ridge, Luo Yuan, who had entered the territory of Chen Yi camp, was frowning, but he couldn't help but marvel at how well the camp concealed itself. Half a month ago, Xia Hong had asked him to find the Lu Shang and Chen Yi camps to discuss the great Xia taking them in. Luo Yuan gladly agreed. He thought he would quickly find the whereabouts of the 2 camps, but unexpectedly, half a month passed, and after coming here 3 times, he hadn't even seen a trace of Chen Ying. When small camps choose their stations, concealment is the most important factor, because the better the concealment, the safer they are. So the first time Luo Yuan came, he didn't expect to find the Chen Yi camp station directly. Instead, he chose to linger around the outskirts of Redwood Ridge to see if he could encounter the Chen Yi camp's logging team. Small camps don't have hunting abilities, but timber and crystal fruit are necessities, so they surely have to come to the outskirts of Redwood Ridge. In theory, his approach was not flawed, but whether it was due to bad luck or other reasons, after 3 visits, he hadn't run into Chen Ying or anyone from the logging team. This was becoming a bit strange. It's no exaggeration to say that with the logging and harvesting capacity of a small camp, unless there's an unexpected situation, they must go out every night. The strength of Chen Yi camp isn't particularly strong. Even if they were lucky and had a large reserve of crystal fruit and timber, it wouldn't make sense for him to come 3 times over half a month and not meet anyone once. If the first 3 times were just bad luck, then on this 4th occasion, after searching for 2 hours and still not seeing anyone, a bad suspicion began to form in Luo Yuan's mind. Especially after checking the 2 ice trees he had marked before and finding the crystal fruits on them identical to last time, clearly untouched, Luo Yuan was almost certain his suspicions were correct. Over half a month without the logging team leaving the camp, impossible. Either Chen Yi camp has entirely moved or there's trouble in their camp. The likelihood of the former is small, so it's almost certain there's trouble. Looking around the perimeter of Redwood Ridge, the only one capable of relocating Chen Yi camp would be the Great Xia, leaving almost no possibility for a move. If there's trouble in the camp, then there could be many possibilities. The logging team might have been wiped out. Perhaps the cold beast found their station, and they've all met with disaster, or perhaps a new deceitful monster has appeared, and so on. Luo Yuan walked to the outskirts of Redwood Ridge, staring at the mountain on the east side, his mind abuzz with thoughts, his expression hesitant. While he wasn't sure of the Chen Yi camp's exact location, he could ascertain it was north of Great Xia, more precisely on the slope extending from the mountain north of Great Xia Valley. The valley Great Xia took over from Roge is already located in a crevice between 2 mountains. The Tower Mountain where the Dushi camp previously was, as well as the slope where Great Xia is located, all count as extensions from the southern mountain. The sloping extension from the northern mountain stretches for several kilometers, and the Chen Yi and Lu Shang camps are along this slope. Their stations are quite similar to the slope where Great Xia was previously located. Speculating here is useless. Let's go directly over and take a look. If there really is a problem and I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll return to inform the leader. With the camp's current strength, there should be no major issues. After pausing for a moment, the hesitation on Luo Yuan's face gradually faded. He then started to sneak cautiously toward the sloped mountain wall on the east. In the worst case, everyone at Chen Yi camp has already met disaster. If luck is slightly better, only the logging team encountered trouble, and the rest are still there. Or perhaps they're facing some difficulties that prevent them from going out. No matter the situation, he had to check it out. Otherwise, going back would leave him with no explanation to give to the leader. Not knowing the specifics of Chen Yi camp's situation, Luo Yuan didn't dare to act rashly when approaching. Not only were his movements stealthy, but he also stopped every so often to ensure safety before continuing forward. There were still 4 or 5 hours until dawn, so there was plenty of time, and he wasn't in a hurry. It's only about 700 or 800 meters from the outskirts of Redwood Ridge to the mountain wall. Being extremely cautious, Luo Yuan took more than half an hour to cover the distance. Once he reached the mountain wall, he didn't rush to search but first carefully observed his surroundings. On the north side of the Great Xia Mountain, the highest point is directly above the valley. The mountain wall slope extending here is just over 100 meters at its peak. After looking around beneath the mountain wall and finding no obvious cave traces, Luo Yuan cautiously climbed up a steep wall to take a higher vantage point. Small camps lack strong individuals from the earth-digging realm, so they can only occupy natural caves. Thus, it's unlikely for a station to be set up high. But there's always an exception to every rule, and there may be natural caves high up some mountains, such as the Tower Mountain where Dushi camp initially was. Having exerted a great deal of effort, Luo Yuan finally managed to climb the slope. After catching a slight breath, he gazed toward the northern side of the sloped mountain wall. With one glance, his scalp immediately went numb, and his expression froze as if he had seen a ghost, his face filled with extreme terror and astonishment. This What did Luo Yuan see? On the north slope of the mountain wall, a large group of densely packed silver creatures was sprawled out. A rough estimate suggested at least several hundred of them. Chapter 115. Chapter 107. The Tremendous Peril of the North Slope Cliff 3 in 1 Mega Chapter /2. Although it was nighttime, the silver color was naturally bright, and with the help of the moonlight, Luo Yuan could barely make out their appearance. This group of silver creatures all had pointed heads and strong bodies, each about a meter long, with a 2 or 3 meter long flesh-colored tail hanging behind, covered with dense barbs, which were terrifyingly intimidating. The two sharp incisors glinted with a chilling light under the moonlight, and although the limbs under their bellies were short, they were robust and powerful, with ends that bore claws as sharp as steel knives. At this moment most of them were asleep, while a few that weren't had small eyes that emitted a blood-red glow, darting around viciously, occasionally baring their teeth at others nearby, full of ferocity. Cold beasts, a new kind of cold beast never encountered before. And there were so many of them, at least 300 to 400. How could such a large group suddenly appear? Luo Yuan swallowed, nearly trembling as he pulled his head back, then cautiously descended from the rock wall, not turning back as he sprinted away. He was infinitely grateful for his earlier caution at this moment. No, he should be thankful to the leader. If not for Xia Hong's strict demands on the hunting team, which instilled the habit of staying vigilant when outside, even the slightest mistake would have caused the group to stir, and he would have undoubtedly been doomed. No wonder they hadn't encountered the Chenyi camp's logging team in the past half-month. Seeing the formation of those creatures, whether the people from Chenyi camp were alive or dead was uncertain, let alone them going out. It was still unknown if that group of creatures also occupied the mountainside during the day, like they did at night. If they did, the people in Chenyi camp wouldn't dare light a fire during the day, and even if they didn't starve to death, they might have frozen to death by now. I must hurry back to report to the leader. The Chenyi camp is just over 2,000 meters from Great Xia. If this group stays here long-term, who knows when they'll discover the valley. If they do, we'll be in trouble too. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, Luo Yuan looked much graver, and his pace back to the valley unconsciously quickened. Inside Redwood Ridge, beside a tree about 4 or 5 meters in diameter, there grew dozens of pale blue plants, whose leaves emitted a faint glow in the night, adding a touch of beauty to the silent, deathly ice and snow forest. Rustle! A faint sound of footsteps came through the snow, and a burly figure approached the blue tree, his face full of joy as he looked at the pale blue vegetation scattered everywhere. The second blue jade tree, indeed the deeper in, the more treasures there are. Just 100 meters in and there are already 2, there must be more further in. The burly figure, having left the hunting team to explore Redwood Ridge alone, was Xia Hong. Seeing the blue frost grass all over the ground, Xia Hong's face lit up with delight, and he immediately crouched down to begin picking them. After finishing the harvest, he tied them up securely with a rope and slung them on his back. Xia Hong stood up and gazed at the blue tree, the joy in his eyes undiminished. Golden sour powder had become an essential item for the hunting team. As the primary ingredient for refining golden sour powder, the importance of blue frost grass was beyond words. Once Xia Hong learned that blue frost grass was an accompanying plant of these blue trees, he placed great importance on these trees. Since its trunk was blue and the leaves were smooth like jade, he named it Blue Jade Tree. Unfortunately, within a 500-meter range outside Redwood Ridge, Cheng Feng could not find a second one. There were 47 blue frost grass plants beside the previous blue jade tree, which had all been harvested and refined into golden sour powder. During this time, the collection team searched the 500-meter range repeatedly, but could never find a second one. The blue frost grass beside the earlier tree had not grown back yet. Xia Hong had been worried about running out of golden sour powder, but unexpectedly, he found 2 in one night. Over 100 blue frost grass plants, tonight's harvest is sufficient, and I even saw a cloud mist Tengjiao. In half a month, we can officially expand the activity range and bring them here to hunt new cold beasts. With blue frost grass on his back, Xia Hong glanced toward the southwest. About 100 meters away in the southwest, there was a cloud-covered area about 50 or 60 meters wide, where the fog was so dense that the outlines of trees were barely visible, and even the moonlight couldn't penetrate, giving off a mysterious sense of danger. That was the habitat of a cloud mist Tengjiao. Xia Hong had just come from there. Snow mane, frost wolf, and demon sheep meats had become less effective in enhancing his strength, perhaps due to his body developing an immunity to the meat of these three cold beasts. Previously, this was just Xia Hong's conjecture, but upon witnessing the cloud mist Teng Jiao, he instantly realized there was a strong possibility that his conjecture was accurate. Because at that moment, he clearly felt an intense craving from both his body and heart for the blood and flesh of the cloud mist Teng Jiao. Whether for his personal training needs, or for the richer vegetation and other resources on the inner side, or even to seek a larger space for survival, it became necessary to expand the camp's range of activities. The place where Xia Hong now stood was about 200 meters inward from the previous 500 meters. In this small area, 2 blue jade trees and a cloud mist Teng Jiao had already been found. If they could restore the previous Rojal camp's kilometer activity range, more new species and useful items would undoubtedly be discovered. Chapter 116. Chapter 107. The Great Peril on the North Slope of the Cliff, 3 in 1 Mega Chapter /3. But speaking of it, just how big is Redwood Ridge? That thought popped into Xia Hong's mind as he subconsciously glanced deeper into the western side of Redwood Ridge. All the camps surrounding Redwood Ridge were solely on the eastern side. By merging the camps of Chenyi and Lushang, the eastern outskirts of Redwood Ridge, stretching over more than 10 miles from south to north, basically counted as a territory of Great Xia alone. This is already a large area on its own, but just by looking at the magnitude of the trees in this world, it's evident that this zone is merely the tip of the iceberg in the entirety of Redwood Ridge. In the 500-meter perimeter, the smallest trees have a diameter of 3 meters. Tonight, Xia Hong ventured less than 200 meters deep and saw the largest tree with a diameter exceeding 20 meters. What kind of concept is this? Xia Hong has climbed to the top of many big trees numerous times, trying to peek at the whole picture of Redwood Ridge. Yet every time he reached the top and looked west, larger and thicker trees would always block his view. Some of these trees, even at a glance, appeared tens or even hundreds of miles away, leaving Xia Hong deeply shocked and even filled with a sense of awe. Perhaps the east side we consider ourselves to be in is merely a small piece of Redwood Ridge's eastern section, not to mention the other end of Redwood Ridge. Even how far it extends to the north and south, we know nothing about. With this thought, looking towards the deep west of Redwood Ridge, Xia Hong felt a mix of curiosity and awe rising in his heart. One day, should the question of how big Redwood Ridge truly is ever be solved, the strength of Great Xia would probably not be far behind that of Beishuo Town. After the sigh, Xia Hong couldn't help but shake his head, chuckling at how far his thoughts had wandered. Marking the position of the second blue jade tree, he went to the location of the first blue jade tree and collected the previously tied portion of blue frost grass, then quickly returned to the valley. The storm from all directions is no match for the rain of our Redwood Ridge. When there's rain on Dragon Gate Mountain, the snowfield tiger descends. At the pile of rocks at the valley's entrance, Xia Hong shouted the code, which was immediately echoed from within. Then a log in the rock pile slowly retracted, revealing a passage. Although Great Xia is much stronger now than before, under Xia Hong's insistence, the cautious approach is still maintained, and the code practice continues to be used. The description of the iron refining furnace was clear, signifying it was only effective against primary monsters. The world's dangers didn't only stem from deceitful monsters, who knew if other humans they'd encountered were friend or foe. Before having absolute strength to ensure safety, Xia Hong firmly believed that being cautious was undeniably correct. The code practice for returning to camp, although it hadn't been useful thus far, didn't mean it was useless. The 72 lives lost at the early stage at the soil slope, the destruction of De Chuan camp, more than 1,000 lives at Rojal camp, all were bloody lessons Xia Hong didn't want to see repeated. The code practice isn't troublesome, just matching phrases, but during crucial moments its role is irreplaceable. Even if, at the very least, it's used to enhance the vigilance of everyone at Daxia camp, it would still be beneficial. Greetings later. The gatekeepers were 2 young reservists. Upon seeing Xia Hong, they immediately bowed respectfully, welcomed him into the valley, and then quickly blocked the passage with the log again. Then the 2 stepped forward, took the blue frost grass from his back, with one heading to the southern mine warehouse to store it, and the other remained guarding the tunnel entrance. From matching the code to entering the valley, witnessing the gatekeeper's proficient actions, Xia Hong nodded slightly, showing satisfaction on his face. All camps within the logging realm were divided into 5 departments, each with its main tasks, and given that Great Xia wasn't yet luxurious enough to have logging realm individuals as gatekeepers, guarding duties rotated among the reserves. Since Xia Chuan suggested including those over 30 in the reserve half a month ago, the reserve numbers had approached 400, so selecting 2 daily for gate duties was not an issue. Xia Hong's approval mainly stemmed from using this method to cultivate the reserves ahead of time, instilling a cautious mindset in them before they even ventured outside. With the collection and logging teams growing larger, the number of casualties while out increased frequently, with 7 deaths and 11 missing thus far. Most importantly, after Xia Hong's thorough investigation, he found that these casualties were all unnecessary. Being inattentive when exploring the surrounding environment while collecting wood, only to provoke cold beasts and get killed. Panic escaping aimlessly and getting lost in the dense forest. Straying too far from the team and losing track, leading to disappearance. Some even fell from trees injuring themselves or accidentally fell into deep snowy pits in the wilds, either disappearing or requiring significant manpower and resources to rescue them back. In short, the ways of casualty were diverse and bizarre. Although this group was small, totaling only 18, they were all in the logging realm and raised with cold beast meat that was obtained at the risk of lives, so how could Xia Hong not feel heartache? While the logging realm didn't possess hunting ability, as long as the numbers were large enough, they were familiar with the terrain and coordinated well. Escaping from low-level cold beast wasn't too hard. The essence of being unfamiliar with the terrain, getting lost, or falling into deep snowy pits was simply carelessness and presumption. Chapter 117. Chapter 107. The Great Peril on the North Slope of the Cliff 3 in 1 Mega Chapter /4. Cheng Feng has stepped down from his position as the leader of the logging team and is now the leader of the collection team. The logging team leader now is Bai Dongying. These two were both originally from the logging team at Rojal Camp, and their wilderness experience might be greater than Xia Hong's. By following these two out as long as you obey, and are a bit more cautious, it is impossible to get lost or go missing, let alone fall into a snow pit. Xia Hong has concluded that these casualties, ultimately, are because part of the new breakthrough members of the logging realm had internal issues. They lack wilderness experience and are not cautious enough. They become overconfident with their newfound strength and rush in recklessly. They think that gathering wood is different from hunting and is not dangerous. And among them, there should have been instances of disobeying the leader's orders. 5 days ago, Xia Hong was furious about this matter, not only punishing several typical cases from the logging team and the collection team, but also reprimanding leaders Bai Dongying and Cheng Feng severely, thoroughly reorganizing the camp's growing arrogance. The hunting team is personally managed by him, so there are no signs yet. After he got mad at the collection team and logging team, Xia Chuan immediately took the lead, with Cheng Feng and Bai Dongying, to establish several rules including gatekeeping, which was also worked out at that time. In this purgatory-like ice abyss, if you want to survive, you must be cautious, especially when you are still very weak. Xia Hong's authority and position are enough for the more than 800 people in the camp to unconditionally obey his orders, but making everyone immediately develop a cautious and careful character is certainly not feasible. They can only rely on established doctrines and rules, and Xia Hong's strict requirements as a leader, to subtly influence and even change everyone. The construction of new homes in the valley is now at the final stages. Thick walls stand tall on all sides. The top is completely sealed off. At the pointed tops of the 4 corners, someone is even laying down canopies made of beast skin. The main gate has not yet been sealed, and people constantly come and go. The 3-tiered structure is already in place, and through the gate, one can see people going up and down, transporting pre-cut wooden boards and iron materials in trips. Seeing everyone busy and enthusiastic, Xia Hong did not step forward to disturb, but headed towards the temporary wooden house ahead. Greetings later. Greetings later. There weren't many people inside the temporary wooden house. A few young children were playing and frolicking. Seeing Xia Hong come in, they imitated the adults and greeted respectfully. Xia Hong smiled and rubbed their little heads, letting them play by themselves. Seeing Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and Zhao Long, the 3 brothers sitting cross-legged with serious expressions by the iron refining furnace, Xia Hong immediately realized something had happened. These 5, after returning from a hunt, should have joined others from the hunting team to help by the new wooden house. Leader. Seeing the 5 about to rise, Xia Hong quickly gestured with his hand for them to remain seated, then walked to a chair, sat down, and asked, "What happened? Was there a problem with the recent hunt?" Xia Hong thought there was an issue with the hunt, but Luo Yuan shook his head immediately, his face serious, recounting what he had already said earlier. "I went over to the Chen Yi camp again tonight. The previous 3 times I didn't meet Chen Ying and the logging team. This time, I went directly to their station by the cliff, and at the north slope by the cliff I saw." As Luo Yuan narrated, Xia Hong's expression gradually turned grave, and by the end he couldn't help but stand up from his chair. "Strange cold beasts, hundreds of them, are on the north slope of the cliff." At this moment, the Chen Yi camp located at the north slope of the cliff is entirely out of Xia Hong's consideration. Only one thought remained in his mind. Hundreds of unknown cold beasts are entrenched in the north side of the cliff, less than 2 kilometers from the great Xia camp. If the group of cold beasts follows the hill south for 1 or 2 kilometers, they could invade the great Xia camp. Looking at Luo Yuan again, Xia Hong asked with extreme seriousness, "How many? Are you sure you didn't see it wrong?" Closing his eyes in recollection for a while, Luo Yuan nodded heavily, responding, "I don't know if there are more elsewhere, but just on that stretch of the north slope, there are at least over 300, I'm sure I didn't see wrong. 1 meter long with a 2 to 3 meter spiky tail, sharp and strong build, silver fur, 2 sharp incisors, short sturdy limbs, small red eyes." Apart from the size, the silver fur and spiked tail, the word mouse instantly popped into Xia Hong's mind. Enlarging based on the size made his hair stand on end, and the seriousness on his face intensified several degrees. Considering the cold beasts like snow mane, frost wolf, and demon sheep, the cold beasts of the ice abyss world are unique, but they clearly connect with similar creatures from his past life, and some habits seem quite similar. By that reasoning, these mouse-like cold beasts currently living in groups fit. What about the others? The digging ability of mice, their gnawing capability, disease-spreading ability, even their reproduction rates. Xia Hong shivered vigorously, stepping out of the wooden house directly. The 5 people saw this and quickly followed him out. Stepping out of the wooden house, Xia Hong gazed towards the northern mountains of the valley, considering that the group of cold beasts was less than 2 kilometers away. The seriousness on his face reached its peak. "How long until dawn?" The 5 followed Xia Hong out of the wooden house. Hearing his question, Xia Chuan answered immediately, "There should be a little over an hour left." "Good, there's still time. Luo Yuan, you take me to see Xia Chuan, come with me too, bring weapons and torches, let's go quickly and come back quickly." "Yes, leader." The 3 of them, with sabers already on their persons, returned to the wooden house to each take a bow and arrows, and strapped several torches to their backs. They left the camp at once. Under Luo Yuan's lead, they swiftly headed towards the mountain wall location of the Chen Yi camp. In just over 10 minutes, Luo Yuan led them below the cliff. The 3 quietly climbed up the cliff, making no sound. Reaching the top of the slope, Xia Hong and Xia Chuan slowly extended their heads to look towards the north slope. The reaction from the 2 was identical to Luo Yuan's just moments before. How can there be this many? SHH, be careful, don't make a sound." After indicating for Xia Chuan to keep quiet, Xia Hong retracted his head, his face turning exceedingly grim. "They've been in this valley for only half a year, haven't had much peaceful time. The new homes are about to be completed, yet such a large group of cold beasts appeared nearby. What kind of world is this, not giving people any way to live?" Chapter 118. Chapter 108, Long-tailed Rodent 3-in-1 Mega Chapter. The power of the swarming cold beasts was already something Xia Hong had experienced when the great Xia relocated to the valley before. At that time, there were only 15 frost wolves. On his side, there were 5 in the earth-digging realm and about 20 in the logging realm. Even with such forces, 4 of 50 people were killed during the migration, and 2 from the logging realm died. In the end, if it weren't for Xia Hong's bluffing strategy against the wolf pack, the results could have been more tragic, with more deaths. That was just a pack of 15 frost wolves, and now there are hundreds of unfamiliar cold beasts on the northern slope of the mountain wall. If they move just 2 kilometers south and find the valley, it would be catastrophic for the great Xia. Stay calm, these long-tailed rodents aren't very large, and by the looks and aura, they're not as threatening as snow mane and frost wolves. Their individual strength might not be very strong, but their sheer number is overwhelming. We don't know if they have a leader, and if they do, how strong would that leader be? We can't provoke them easily. We have to think of a plan. From the frost wolf pack they encountered during the previous migration, it was evident that they had a clear division of labor, coordinated seamlessly, and advanced and retreated with order. This shows that there is likely a hierarchy among these cold beasts, suggesting the presence of a leader. Though the leader of the frost wolf pack wasn't seen at that time, Xia Hong remained confident in his assumption. Considering this long-tailed rodent group amounts to nearly 400, there must be a lead rodent. What is the strength of that lead rodent? Could it be an intermediate cold beast, and if so, what should be done? Xia Hong's expression grew increasingly serious, his mind racing to figure out a strategy. Beside him, Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan knew he was deep in thought and dared not disturb him. They were equally aware of the significant threat this group of cold beasts posed to the camp, and were pondering solutions just as seriously. Is it possible to attempt to lure them away somewhere else? Upon hearing Xia Chuan's suggestion, Luo Yuan didn't show any surprise. He had just returned to the camp with the news, and before Xia Hong came back, Xia Chuan had already proposed this idea. Yet beside him, Xia Hong, after hearing the suggestion, wasn't surprised but instinctively shook his head. But after a brief moment of thought, he showed a helpless expression. This is the only option, but in actual execution the difficulty is too high. The idea of luring away this group of cold beasts had already occurred to Xia Hong on his way over, but the feasibility posed significant challenges. Firstly, these long-tailed rodents aren't gathering here for no reason. Without understanding why they're congregated here, trying to lead them elsewhere is easier said than done. Secondly, the sheer number of rodents is enormous, 300 to 400 of them. During the guiding process, even the slightest mishap would mean lives lost at best. If they accidentally discover the valley, the consequences would be unthinkable. Finally, regarding the strength, behavior, and attack methods of these cold beasts, especially in such large numbers, how much destructive power they possess remains entirely unknown to them. These three challenges combined make it evidently difficult to successfully lead this group of rodents elsewhere. Xia Hong instinctively shook his head, rejecting Xia Chuan's suggestion based on this. Then he showed a helpless expression because he had to admit, it's currently the only feasible strategy they could conceive. When encountering a formidable enemy, there are only two options: fight or flee. Fighting is not feasible, neither driving them away nor killing them, as our strength does not allow it. Fleeing isn't feasible either. Last time 300 to 400 people relocating to the valley met with significant mishap. Now, with nearly 900 people in the Great Xia relocating recklessly, who knows what could happen, possibly greater threats than the rodent swarm. Moreover, where can they run to? The surroundings of Redwood Ridge are limited. Moving nearby is like not moving at all, but moving far to explore new, unfamiliar environments entails greater risks. So trying to lure the rodent swarm far away from the valley, though difficult, is currently the only viable option. Leader, look over there. Luo Yuan suddenly whispered, prompting Xia Hong to quickly lift his head and follow his pointing finger. Upon seeing it, his eyes lit up. In the silver rodent swarm on the northern slope of the mountain wall, two rodents were darting in a direction seemingly aimed at the south's Redwood Ridge. Nighttime is the rest period for cold beasts, and this rodent swarm is no exception. Nearly 90% of the rodents twine their tails, closing their eyes to rest. Only these two are acting independently, seemingly trying to break away from the group. Great opportunity, move quietly and follow. After speaking softly, Xia Hong led the descent along the mountain wall, with Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan close behind. All three moved with exceptional stealth, not daring to make the slightest noise. After the three descended the mountain wall, Xia Hong looked northward again, only to find those two rodents were just 200 to 300 meters from Redwood Ridge. Yet in that last 200 or 300 meters, the rodents stopped moving. They stood in place, emitting faint chirping sounds like they were communicating something. As the three preemptively entered Redwood Ridge from the flank and saw those two were still at a standstill, Xia Hong frowned and, after a moment of contemplation, retrieved a torch from his back. You two wait here, don't move, I'll go first. Leader, it's too dangerous, let me do it. Before Xia Hong could finish, Realizing what he intended to do, Xia Chuan immediately interrupted, volunteering. Chapter 119. Chapter 108. Long-tailed rodent 3-in-1 Mega Chapter /2. Damn it. On the other side, Luo Yuan was more direct. After speaking, he just dashed out. Watching Luo Yuan rush out and then seeing Xia Chuan beside him, obviously annoyed for being a step slower than Luo Yuan, Xia Hong knew the two didn't want their leader to risk himself, and he was somewhat moved. To deal with the rodent swarm, one must understand their strength. That large group on the north slope, even if given 100 guts, the three of us wouldn't dare to touch them. But by chance, we came across two trying to leave the group. Such a heaven-sent opportunity shouldn't be missed. According to previous hunting experience, lighting a torch a short distance should be no problem. But this long-tailed rodent, after all, being the first encounter with this cold beast, who knows if there will be any unexpected occurrences? Get a bit closer, be ready to help at any time. Although Luo Yuan has been hunting with us for so long, and Xia Hong trusted his adaptability, he still wasn't familiar with these new cold beasts like the rodent. Fearing any accidents, he brought Xia Chuan closer. Meanwhile, Luo Yuan went north for a while, roughly estimated. The distance between himself and the two rodents was about 100 meters. Then he took out a torch. During previous hunts, the leader always lit the torch when about 50 or 60 meters away from a cold beast. Not familiar with these rodents, let's try a bit over 100 meters first. If it can't attract them, I'll slowly get closer. Technically, snowmane, frost wolf, and demon sheep have different torch perception abilities, with frost wolf being the strongest, able to perceive beyond 50 or 60 meters. Demon sheep was next, with snowmane being the worst, needing the torch about 30 meters away to perceive it. After half a year with Xia Hong, Luo Yuan became exceedingly cautious, lighting the torch from over 100 meters to test how far the rodents could sense the torch. Fizz bang. In the dark forest, a small torch suddenly lit up. Luo Yuan swiftly plunged it into the snow, then quickly ran towards a pre-selected tree. Not far off, seeing Luo Yuan's cautious approach, Xia Hong's eyes revealed a hint of satisfaction. "Brother, look at those two rodents, what are they doing?" Hearing this, Xia Hong quickly turned to look. What he saw suddenly made his expression turn horrified. The two rodents were actually crouching, stretching out their sharp incisors, gnawing hard at the ground. The problem was, the ground was actually being dug open by them, with soil and rocks piling up behind them, and almost instantly, their 1-meter-long bodies burrowed completely underground, disappearing, and in just a few breaths, even their 2 to 3 meter tails fully burrowed underground. Do these rodents have earth-digging realm strength? Xia Chuan, upon seeing this, couldn't help but ask in a low voice with a horrified expression. Xia Hong didn't immediately answer. He pondered with a grave expression for a moment, then shook his head quickly, saying, "Not necessarily. If they truly have earth-digging realm strength, they would have used all their limbs to dig. Just now, they only used their incisors, which should mean those teeth are very hard and their biting force is also terrifying." Despite denying that the rodents had earth-digging realm strength, just their incisors alone were enough to make Xia Hong's heart pound with fear. Such a hard ground, and yet two rodents could dig through it so quickly and burrow inside. If those hundreds on the mountainside north slope came together, how terrifying would it be? Where did those two rodents burrow to? The confusion not only troubled Xia Chuan, but also Xia Hong. The rodents were burrowing not into the snow, but hard into the ground beneath. In the somewhat loose snow, cold beasts burrowing around could still be detected. The ground in the ice abyss world was incomparably hard. Once rodents burrowed in, they completely vanished without a trace, impossible to detect any movement. They burrowed as soon as the torch lit up. Just keep an eye on the torch. As long as there's no movement from the rodent group on the mountainside, we'll guard the torch. Those two beasts will show up eventually. Xia Hong scanned the ground for a long time without finding anything, so he simply gave up and led Xia Chuan closer to the torch, stopping about 50 or 60 meters from it. He took out his bow and arrow, and together with Xia Chuan, stared intently at the torch. Lighting the torch over 100 meters away, the rodents reacted, indicating their perception ability was obviously stronger than the previously encountered cold beasts. Given this, distance control was essential. Getting too close was not an option. Of course, while keeping an eye on the torch, Xia Hong also continuously monitored any movement on the north slope of the mountainside. If anything seemed off, he'd immediately lead a retreat. Yet, after staring closely for nearly 6 or 7 minutes, with the small torch burning for almost half of its duration, those two rodents still hadn't appeared. Xia Hong looked up at the sky, his brows furrowing tighter. Dawn was about to break. If those two rodents didn't show up soon, they'd have to head back. It doesn't add up. With the small torch burning for so long, why haven't they taken the bait? Could it be the small torch doesn't attract them? A suppressed, low scream suddenly interrupted Xia Hong's thoughts. Damn, it's Luo Yuan, quickly, get over there. Xia Hong darted towards the tree where Luo Yuan was hiding. Within 10 meters, he saw Luo Yuan, with his left arm covered in blood and his face pale, running towards him. He had 3 huge claw marks on his chest, oozing blood. At the same time, 2 silver figures swiftly and agilely moved among the branches above the tree, so fast even their shadows were hard to perceive. One figure leapt down from a branch, its target clearly Luo Yuan. Chapter 120. Chapter 108 Long-tailed rodent 3-in-1 Mega Chapter /3. Their speed. The 2 silver figures were naturally the 2 rodents. Although Xia Hong was shocked by their speed, his hands moved swiftly, holding a large blade as he quickly rushed to Luo Yuan's side and ferociously slashed at the rodent descending from the sky. Whoosh! Xia Hong's basic strength exceeded 20,000 caddies, and the force of his swing swept up the snow on the ground, showcasing its power. The rodent pouncing towards Luo Yuan obviously sensed the threat of Xia Hong's strike, and abruptly shifted its body to the left in midair. Xia Hong, unfazed by the miss, withdrew his blade in stride. His intention with the strike was merely to assist Luo Yuan, not expecting to swiftly kill the rodent. Whoosh! However, just as Xia Hong was about to retract his blade, a sudden gust of wind reached his ears. His heart constricted abruptly, and he swiftly turned, ready to block horizontally from the left. The rodent, using the momentum from its body turning left, swung its over 2-meter-long barbed tail towards Xia Hong. Xia Hong's reaction was swift. His side block was indeed effective. But the rodent's tail was soft and incredibly fast. Snap! Rip! Amidst the sound of a whip and the tearing of flesh, intense pain registered in his mind. Xia Hong turned to see 4 or 5 deep wounds on his waist. Instead of anger, a gleam of joy flickered in his eyes. The rodent had returned to the tree branches, standing alongside the other. Their blood-red eyes filled with fierce menace as they glared down at the 2 below. Leader, they dug from underground to the heart of the tree and directly reached my side. I couldn't escape in time, and one of them bit my arm while another clawed at my chest. Luo Yuan, now safe, spoke with a pale face as he explained the situation to Xia Hong, taking out golden sour powder from his pocket to apply on his left arm and chest. Xia Hong also rubbed some golden sour powder on his waist, stopping the bleeding. He then looked at the tree where Luo Yuan had been hiding, noticing a large hole over a meter wide. He glanced up at the 2 rodents on the branch, a chill passing through his heart. They had burrowed over 100 meters from afar, tunneling from the tree stump's base to Luo Yuan's side. That entire process took merely 7 or 8 minutes without making a sound. Luo Yuan was of earth-digging realm capability and had hunted with him for half a year, known for his extreme caution. The fact that he didn't notice the rodents until they were beside him said enough. Moreover, these 2 rodents must have been attracted by the torches, but their sensing ability far surpassed the 3 previous cold beasts. Not only did they detect Luo Yuan's hiding spot, but they also knew to sneak up for an attack. They are smart, cunning, united, possess tremendous biting and burrowing capabilities, exceptional sensory abilities and tremendous speed, coupled with team cooperation. The rodents' only weakness is: don't be afraid, they may be fast, but their strength is quite ordinary. Despite having his waist scratched by the barbs on the rodent's tail, Xia Hong was not alarmed but pleased, having discovered their strength wasn't formidable. Forget comparing them to Snow Mane, even Frost Wolf was stronger than these rodents. As Xia Hong voiced his observation, the 2 rodents on the tree once again charged at him. Their speed was blinding, moving like 2 silver flashes, arriving in an instant from the branch to right in front of him. Aware of the blade's threat in Xia Hong's hand, the 2 rodents chose neither to use their claws nor to attack head-on. Instead, they bared their sharp, gnawing teeth, attacking Xia Hong from both sides. Xia Hong swiftly swung his blade horizontally to block the left side, while Luo Yuan, with his injuries temporarily suppressed by the golden sour powder, gritted his teeth and charged towards the right, lifting his blade to block the incoming rodent. Clang! The gnawing teeth and the large blade collided fiercely, emitting sparks, seemingly powerful in force, yet neither Xia Hong nor Luo Yuan, with their backs against each other, moved an inch. Only their hands holding the blade trembled slightly. Their strength truly isn't strong. Having been ambushed before, Luo Yuan was now reassured. He could tell, despite the rodent's speed, that their bite force only amounted to 6,000 or 7,000 caddies, a power he had no fear confronting directly. Don't be careless, check the blade. But just as he began to feel relieved, Xia Hong warned him. Looking down at his blade, Luo Yuan's expression shifted dramatically, his earlier ease swiftly turning tense again. The blade of his weapon, which had just clashed with the rodent's teeth, had developed a large nick, resembling teeth marks, with the edge curling over 3 to 4 inches beyond the dent. So hard, how is that possible? Don't get bitten, focus on dealing with them first. Xia Hong understood Luo Yuan's shock. Up to this point, the hardest material they had encountered was iron. Yet these rodents' teeth were harder than iron. If it bit a person, it would be disastrous. Xia Hong's face displayed shock, yet also a hint of joy. But there was no time to think about it now. Squeak! The two rodents let out a low cry and lunged forward once more. This time they bypassed Xia Hong, targeting Luo Yuan instead. More specifically, they aimed for Luo Yuan's left arm and chest. The two rodents coordinated an attack simultaneously at Luo Yuan's already injured left arm and chest. Chapter 121. Chapter 108 Long-tailed rodent 3-in-1 Mega Chapter /4. Xia Hong leaped to block on Luo Yuan's left side, only exchanging a glance with him, storing energy in his great blade. He took advantage of the moment when the rodent on the left had yet to attack and slashed down preemptively where it was about to bite. Luo Yuan, on his side, wielded his blade to fend off another rodent attacking his chest. The speed of the two rodents was similar, almost simultaneously confronting the two in front. Clang! The situation was exactly the same as their first clash. But this time, the sparks flying from the collision of the great blade and the rodent's teeth were only a single burst. Luo Yuan, who had just blocked the rodent attacking his chest, suddenly turned at the critical moment, blocking horizontally towards the teeth of the rodent on the left, ignoring the one attacking his chest. Originally, Xia Hong had completed storing energy. As Luo Yuan turned, Xia Hong slashed with his blade and then withdrew it, swinging it around again, changing his stance with the momentum and completing a second energy charge. Xia Hong's pupils suddenly constricted, and he slashed decisively at the rodent that had just arrived. From the moment the two switched positions to Xia Hong's second energy charge, and his slash towards the rodent. The whole process was as smooth as flowing water. Most critically, they communicated the entire time with just one glance. No matter how well you cooperate, can you be more synchronized than humans? Xia Hong slashed down, his gaze fierce, and his expression a bit ferocious. The strength of these two rodents, when it comes down to it, wasn't that strong. He and Luo Yuan suffered in their first encounter because they were unfamiliar. Luo Yuan didn't expect that the opponent could so silently dig from the ground to before him. Xia Hong was surprised by the opponent's speed, not expecting its tail to be so agile. With Luo Yuan's sudden positional switch in the battle, with a calculated move against an unprepared opponent, the rodent facing them couldn't react in time. Because of their speed, responding in such a short time was impossible. Additionally, Xia Hong and Luo Yuan were in a state of rest waiting for action. They switched positions at the last moment, sealing the fate of the rodent head-on. The rodent that initially attacked Luo Yuan, upon seeing Xia Hong coming over, had a flicker of panic flash through its eyes, clearly realizing it couldn't react in time. Wish! Xia Hong's slash aimed at the rodent's head seized the timing precisely. The blade cut through the air with a whistling sound, as if the surrounding air had paused for a moment. But just as the great blade was about to strike, the rodent suddenly lifted its head midair. Its pair of scarlet eyes shot out two beams of red light about an inch long, seemingly solidified into substance, like two sharp arrows meeting Xia Hong's blade like needle points. SSS. The eye beams collided with the great blade, sending a strong recoil force that caused Xia Hong's hands holding the blade to tremble incessantly. The blade that was initially aimed at the rodent's head was deflected over half a meter by the recoil. These cold beasts indeed each have their trump cards. This inch of light must be the rodent's last-ditch effort to stay alive, but you're not quite mature enough to rely on this to survive. Xia Hong's ferocious expression didn't fade in the slightest. He gritted his teeth, steadied his blade, ignoring his cracked tiger's mouth, and forcibly twisted the half-meter off-course blade back on track. Crack! The sound of bones breaking echoed in the night sky as the rodent's body fell to the ground with a thud. The massive force of impact almost completely buried it in snow, leaving only its back exposed. Squeak, squeak. Accompanied by the last feeble squeak, its vitality was completely extinguished. Xia Hong looked down at the rodent's broken spinal column, taking a deep breath. Its teeth may be hard, but the strength of its internal bones is average. The inch of light is powerful, but the attack range seems short and might only be unleashed under mortal danger. So as long as these long-tailed rodents aren't in swarms, the threat shouldn't be too great. Whoosh! Leader, it's trying to run. Before he could relax for long, Xia Hong was startled awake by Luo Yuan's alert. Turning his head, he saw the other rodent had turned into a silver streak heading towards the cliffside, and his expression immediately tensed. Can't let it escape, hurry and chase. Xia Hong shouted lowly, leading Luo Yuan to chase swiftly. The cold beasts possess intelligence and can definitely communicate with each other. If this rodent returns to its group, it will definitely be a big problem. The problem is, this rodent's speed is too fast, darting dozens of meters away almost instantly. At Redwood Ridge's perimeter, the cliffside was only 700 to 800 meters away. If they continued to chase for a few more breaths, getting too close to the cliffside would be very dangerous. Yet Xia Hong and Luo Yuan did not slow down. In fact, as they watched the rodent nearing the exit of Redwood Ridge, a hint of anticipation flashed in their eyes. The rodent was clearly aware that Xia Hong and Luo Yuan were slower than itself. Though a smirk appeared on its face, the gleam of ferocity in its eyes did not diminish as it continued to flee without slowing at all. Twang! Suddenly, a sound like a taut string echoed under the rodent's feet. Just shy of the final 10 meters to escape Redwood Ridge, the rodent stumbled, its body tumbling forward several meters due to its intense inertia. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Simultaneously, several arrows shot swiftly from behind, piercing the rodent's fallen body almost inexorably. The rodent possessed a strong life force, still struggling towards the cliff after being pierced by several arrows. However, the arrows seemed relentless, their speed and force growing stronger until the last few arrows pierced completely through the rodent's body and embedded into the snowy ground ahead. The rodent's life force rapidly diminished, its blood-red eyes reflecting a fierce and violent glare as it watched Xia Hong and Luo Yuan approaching from a distance. Seeing the two keeping their distance safely over 10 meters away, continually shooting arrows at it, its expression grew even more ferocious. Suddenly, as if realizing something, it raised its head skyward and opened its mouth, emitting a series of rhythmic calls into the air. Squeak, 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 squeak. It's summoning its companions, stop it quickly. Squeak, 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 squeak. To say Xia Hong's reaction was fast is an understatement, yet the rodent's communication efficiency clearly surpassed that. With just 2 or 3 cries, a rustling sound began to emanate from the ground. Xia Hong and Luo Yuan turned their heads simultaneously, realizing the sound came from the north slope of the cliff, and their expressions changed drastically. They quickly drew their bows and fired a series of 4 to 5 arrows at the rodent's head. As he issued the warning, Xia Chuan, who had been hiding on the other side of a large tree, blocking the rodent with the white thread and playing a crucial role, also dashed out. He drove the black blade into the rodent's neck. Collect the bodies of the 2 rodents, pick up all the arrows on the ground, leave no traces, hurry, and run first into Redwood Ridge. At Xia Hong's command, Luo Yuan immediately collected the bodies of the 2 rodents. Xia Chuan plucked the white thread, retrieving all the arrows. Having battled for so long, many traces were left on the ground. Xia Hong glanced around, and using his blade, he swept up the snow on the ground. Seeing Luo Yuan had wrapped the rodent bodies in leather, and Xia Chuan had recovered the arrows, he led them and rushed frantically into the depths of Redwood Ridge. The 3 had barely fled for a dozen breaths when the ground began to tremble slightly, soon accompanied by countless squeaks. Squeak, 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 squeak. Squeak, 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 squeak. A large silver rodent head suddenly broke through the earth. It extended its sharp nose, sniffing the air, then immediately turned towards the interior of Redwood Ridge, its red eyes, several times larger than those of other rodents, filled with ferocity. After seemingly pondering for a moment, it withdrew back underground. Squeak, 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 squeak. A squeak louder than any other rodents arose, accompanied by two distinct movements underground, one returning to the north slope of the cliff, the other pursuing into the interior of Redwood Ridge, the direction where Xia Hong and his companions had fled. Chapter 122, Chapter 109, The Consequences of Being Too Clever. On the north side of Redwood Ridge, within the territory of the Lu Shang camp. Beside a large tree, Xia Hong lay prone on the ground, holding his breath, his right ear pressed tightly to the ground. Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan stood nearby, vigilant, occasionally glancing at him. Still underground, about 200 meters away, pursuing us. It's not because of the rodent corpses. It seems their perception is inherently strong. Xia Hong stood up from the ground, his expression extremely grim. The summoning cry of the rodent, just before it died, had been of some effect. Despite his quick actions, he still couldn't escape the notice of the rodent pack that started chasing them. It had taken more than 10 minutes to run from the north slope of the mountain to here, with a brief stop along the way, during which he heard the sound of the rodent swarm digging towards them from underground. Earlier, he thought the smell of the two rodent corpses had attracted the rodent group, so he found a snow pit midway to mark and temporarily buried the two rodent corpses. Clearly, he was wrong. Without the two rodent corpses, the rodent group was still chasing them, and their speed was increasing. Even running at full speed, the three couldn't put much distance between them and the chasers. "Leader, we can't stay here any longer. The commotion is getting louder." Luo Yuan took a few steps south, sensing the grounds trembling and realizing that the underground rodent swarm was closing in. His expression turned anxious. "Run first." Xia Hong realized they couldn't linger there, and immediately set off northward with the other two. They had paid a high price just dealing with those two rodents. If they were caught by the underground rodent swarm, none of the three would likely survive. But as they ran, they hadn't gone more than a few dozen meters when Xia Hong's face grew even darker. Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan glanced ahead and seemed to understand, their expressions mirroring his. They were now in the territory of Lu Shang camp, at the northernmost position on the east side of Redwood Ridge. If they continued north, they'd reach Arrow Bamboo Forest, a completely unfamiliar area to them. The Ice Abyss world, with its unfamiliar environmental dangers, was as lethal as death itself. They couldn't run north, staying to fight was suicide, circling back to the camp would endanger more people. What to do? What to do? Ideas raced through Xia Hong's mind until he suddenly turned his gaze westward, inside Redwood Ridge, and his eyes lit up. "Change direction, run inside, let's see if those beasts dare follow." Seeing Xia Hong suddenly speak and change direction toward the inner west side of Redwood Ridge, Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan, although puzzled, followed closely behind. For them, the outer 500 meters of Redwood Ridge was a safe zone. Venturing deeper up to 1,000 meters based on previous explorations by Rojal Camp, they would only encounter some other low-tier cold beasts inside. Despite their strength, they were still within the low-tier range. As long as they were cautious, it shouldn't be too problematic for the three of them. Compared to the northern Arrow Bamboo Forest and other more unfamiliar zones, venturing inside a bit deeper seemed more prudent. But soon, thinking they understood Xia Hong's intent, the two quickly realized their mistake when Xia Hong, having led them into Redwood Ridge, directed them toward a region filled with swirling mist. The three of them knew they were in a life-and-death crisis, so they moved swiftly. Seeing the misty area, they were less than 100 meters away. "Leader, that's the territory of a cloud mist Tengjiao. Is it safe to just rush in like that?" Unlike Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, having been an early member of the Rojal camp, was somewhat familiar with the three types of cold beasts within the 1,000-meter vicinity. Upon seeing the misty area, he immediately understood. When Xia Hong continued to lead them into the mist zone, Luo Yuan thought Xia Hong might not know about the cloud mist Tengjiao and thus issued a reminder. "I know, just follow me in. It's almost daybreak. If we don't find a way to lose them now, we'll either be eaten or freeze to death. Hurry." Having explored so many times over the past half-month, Xia Hong certainly knew the creature's lair belonged to a cloud mist Tengjiao. He was intentionally heading here. Snakes and rodents are natural enemies. We might even score a windfall. Cursing his own stupidity, Xia Hong suddenly realized that such a simple truth of snake-rodent enmity hadn't dawned on him until now. Simultaneously, he realized they might benefit from this, making his eyes sparkle. Tear off a piece of fur, dampen it with snow, and cover your face quickly. Upon hearing Xia Hong's order, Luo Yuan immediately complied. Although Xia Chuan was unsure, he too quickly fetched a piece of leather from his coat pocket, packed some snow in it, melted it against his chest, and then covered his face with it. The reason Teng Jiao bears the name Cloud Mist is that its breath expels a poisonous mist. In the logging realm, inhalation is lethal. Even in the earth-digging realm, one can last half an hour by covering the mouth and nose with a damp cloth. But after half an hour, continued inhalation causes hallucination and unconsciousness, and excessive exposure can also be fatal. Upon hearing Luo Yuan's explanation, Xia Chuan finally understood. Luo Ming's cold beast scroll had long been committed to memory by Xia Hong. Seeing Luo Yuan saving his breath explaining, he remained silent. The three covered their faces and charged into the mist zone. In the mist zone, visibility was low, but the area was only about 50 to 60 meters in diameter, with just 6 or 7 large trees. Almost immediately after entering, the three of them saw the massive figure coiled around the large tree in the center. An ultra-long Teng Jiao, over 30 meters in length, as thick as a barrel, appeared approximately 60 centimeters in diameter. Its body was covered in black scales about the size of a baby's fist, wrapped around most of the large tree, with its tail buried in the snow as if resting on the ground. Most striking was its gigantic head, much broader than its body, lounging on a bifurcation of the tree. On its forehead, 2 huge bulges seemed to be the nascent locations of budding horns. Though the Teng Jiao's eyes were shut, its nostrils exhaled white mist with each breath, exuding an intense oppressive force. The previous time, Xia Hong had only glanced at the Teng Jiao from a distance. Now, watching up close, he felt the pressure of directly facing such a creature. It's hard to imagine that this Teng Jiao, like the snow mane, frost wolf, and demon sheep, was still categorized as a low-tier cold beast. Just how powerful would an intermediate cold beast be? Of course, now wasn't the time for Xia Hong to marvel. Xia Hong once more dropped to the ground to listen. After a moment, a trace of joy appeared on his face. They stopped. Those vile creatures really don't dare to come over. Earlier, the rodents had silently burrowed underground to ambush Luo Yuan successfully because there were only 2. But this time, their numbers were significant, and to pursue him, they increased their digging speed, making it impossible to conceal their movement. Therefore, Xia Hong could easily discern their movements each time he pressed his ear to the ground. Although he heard clearly that about tens of meters away, the burrowing noise of the rodent group had ceased, Xia Hong didn't dare to be careless and led the other 2 to distance themselves as much as possible from the Teng Jiao, choosing to climb up a tree to hide. The damp cloth can only filter for half an hour. With less than that until dawn, we can only linger for a few minutes. Regardless of whether the rodent group has retreated or not, we must quickly find another spot. Otherwise, we'd freeze to death even if we aren't eaten by the Teng Jiao. As time ticked by, Xia Hong estimated the time but continuously pressed his ear to the tree trunk, hoping to hear the retreat of the rodent group. Sadly, he heard nothing. But that was to be expected. If the rodents decided to retreat, they would likely follow the same underground path they dug in on, providing little chance of audibly detecting them leaving. It's getting light, elder brother. If we don't go now, it'll be too late. Xia Chuan clearly sensed the dropping temperature and looked up at the increasingly transparent mist, realizing the night was ending, urgently reminded. Xia Hong frowned deeply. Regardless of the impending dawn, with such a big cloud mist Teng Jiao looming nearby, he wanted to withdraw too. But whether the rodents had retreated was unknown. What if they were lying in wait? The Teng Jiao represented their lone lifeline, and leaving recklessly only to get surrounded by rodents meant they wouldn't receive a second chance. Retreat first, take a gamble. Xia Hong would prefer not to gamble if possible. Because if the gamble failed and the rodents hadn't gone, he would immediately meet his end leaving the mist zone. But regrettably, he had no choice. For humans, the low temperature after dawn was lethal, but it empowered cold beasts, making them widely active and stronger during the day. The imbalance meant death was the only outcome if the 3 stayed longer. However, just as Xia Hong was about to lead the way down from the tree, a sharp cracking sound of breaking would met their ears. Crack! Xia Hong's face froze, his pupils contracted slightly, and he then moved to his previous spot, pressing his ear once more against the surface. Run quickly! As soon as he heard it, Xia Hong's expression changed dramatically. With a low shout, he dragged Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan with force, leaping down from the tree together. Whoosh! The trunk of the large tree where they'd been perched suddenly splintered, releasing 7 or 8 silver flashes. The sharp-fanged, fleet-footed figures weren't anyone but those long-tailed rodents. Upon landing, before they could even let go, Xia Hong and the other two were instantly beset by 2 or 3 rodents each from either side. The three formed a back-to-back defensive stance, lifting their knives to fend off attacks. Despite holding off several strikes, they each sustained numerous wounds. Even targeted primarily, Xia Hong received a 3 to 4-inch scar across his face from the rodent's claws. Feigning immobility, while quietly sending a few to burrow over, these rodents possess intelligence this high, damned it. Xia Hong couldn't mind his own injuries. His face was severely solemn. If not for the inadvertent noise exposed by the rodents at the last moment, the 3 of them would have been decapitated had they hesitated to jump down the tree half a second longer. 8 rodents encircled them in a 3-3-2 formation, their eyes glinting with ferocity. Their narrow, sinister muzzles bared sharp incisors, chattering as though communicating something. "Elder brother, something's wrong." One wave hadn't subsided when another arose. Xia Hong had yet to figure out how to escape the rodent encirclement when he heard Xia Chuan's voice, low and fearful, from the left. Uncertain, he turned to see Xia Chuan gazing skyward, prompting him to instinctively look up too. At a glance, his back turned ice cold. A massive head hovered in the air, dozens of meters above, staring down at him. It was the cloud mist Teng Jiao from before. Its forked tongue extended a good 4 or 5 meters from its mouth, and the mist exhaled from its nostrils was far denser than earlier. Its fiery red vertical pupils bore no emotion, only sheer ferocity and brutality. When did this Teng Jiao wake? With such a large body, how did it crawl from that central tree to here without making a sound? Xia Hong wiped the blood from his face, already cooled to the core. Initially hoping natural hostilities would entice the rodents to fight the Teng Jiao, with expectations of being the fishermen reaping a reward. Now far from a windfall, they were trapped by both the Teng Jiao and the rodents. This is the result of being too clever for your own good. Xia Hong was filled with regret, almost wishing to slap himself. Chapter 123. Chapter 110 must take action immediately. Run. In such a predicament, there was no other choice left. Though the cloud mist Teng Jiao looked terrifying, it was still a low-level cold beast. The individual power of the rodents wasn't strong either, and though 7 or 8 was a considerable number, without an ambush, they were not much of a threat to the 3 of them. The key was, if they didn't run now, half an hour would pass. Xia Hong clearly felt his head starting to feel dizzy, and the temperature was dropping faster and faster, indicating that dawn was not far off. As soon as he gave the order, the 3 of them simultaneously raised their swords and charged in the direction where there were only 2 rodents. The 6 rodents on the other 2 sides reacted quickly, rushing over to try and block the 3 from escaping. But before they could move, the Teng Jiao above them moved first. Whoosh! A huge tail descended from the sky, smashing towards the 3. Xia Hong didn't need to look up. Just the sound of the wind from the descending tail made him realize how terrifying the Teng Jiao's strength was. He directly abandoned the 2 rodents in front of him and dodged sideways before the tail fell, holding his sword firmly. Boom! The giant tail of the Teng Jiao struck the ground, sending snow flying 10 meters high. Although Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan dodged to the sides at the last moment, they were still sent flying over 10 meters by the sweeping strike that followed. Splutter! Though they quickly got up after landing, both spat blood, clearly having their organs injured by the terrifying force of the Teng Jiao. Unlike the 2, Xia Hong not only dodged the impact of the Teng Jiao's giant tail, but his sword even cut into the tail of the Teng Jiao. Taking advantage of the Teng Jiao's final sweep, he withdrew his sword. A deep cut over a meter long appeared on the Teng Jiao's tail. The strength exceeds mine, should be over 25,000 pounds, but its defense is average. Iron weapons can injure it. Xia Hong took a deep breath, a hint of delight on his face. When the Teng Jiao's giant tail descended earlier, he hadn't attacked proactively, but held his sword horizontally in the air. The wound on the Teng Jiao's tail was caused by its own inability to stop its strength, and the final sweeping strike was obviously a reflex from being wounded by the sword and feeling the pain. Leader, the rodents' movements have slowed. Indeed, they're no longer as agile as before. Meanwhile, from the other side, good news came from Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan. The reason they were hit by the Tang Jiao's sweep earlier was that they blocked the two incoming rodents for Xia Hong. Both rodents were now marked with cuts inflicted by their swords. With the usual speed of rodents, the two of them shouldn't have managed to injure them. Xia Hong turned to look at the cuts on the rodents, then glanced around at the other 8 rodents. He noticed that their crimson pupils showed a clear dazedness, and their movements were indeed much slower than before, and he realized instantly. The poisonous mist from the Tang Jiao affects the rodents more than it does humans. Whoosh! Just as he finished speaking, the sound of the wind came again. Xia Hong hurriedly led the other 2 quickly southward, toward the place where the rodent group had chased them earlier and finally stopped. Properties counteracting each other, these 2 types of cold beasts are indeed natural enemies. Fortunately, neither of them is particularly strong on their own. As long as we can deal with the rodent group, escaping safely is not an issue. Seeing the toxic mist restrain the rodents, Xia Hong immediately made a decision. The Tang Jiao, though powerful, was of limited threat to them. Escaping wasn't an issue. The rodent group was currently their biggest obstacle to survival. The large group of rodents underground, whether they retreated or not, if they brought the Tang Jiao over, it was the safest bet. If they could instigate a fight between the 2 sides, that would be ideal. Even if they couldn't, if they could scare away the rodent group, they could survive. The Tang Jiao, enraged by the earlier blow, was clearly very hateful towards Xia Hong. Seeing the 3 of them escape, it didn't hesitate to circle around from the trees to chase after them. Of course, during the process, it didn't forget to swoop down and swallow the 8 nearly unconscious rodents on the ground. Whoosh and whoosh and whoosh and whoosh. The trees of Redwood Ridge were unusually thick and tall, and the Tang Jiao didn't need to land but instead leveraged the trees to chase after the 3, closing the distance quickly in just a short time. The underground is moving, it worked. The rodent group is retreating. As they fled, passing near the area where the rodent group had stopped earlier, Xia Hong could feel the movement indicating the rodents were retreating underground. Though he dared not stop, a smile gradually appeared on his face. Throw the torch. On Xia Hong's command, Xia Chuan immediately understood. While running, he ignited a torch and threw it forcefully in the direction the rodent group was fleeing. Almost the moment the torch ignited, the movements underground ceased abruptly, and the Tang Jiao pursuing from behind had its pupils suddenly contract as its body halted sharply. It's working, run quickly. Once again, Xia Hong couldn't help but marvel at the immense attraction that a torch had on cold beasts. The rodents had chased them from the northern slope of the mountain 2 kilometers to this place, and even after encountering the Tang Jiao, they were unwilling to retreat, showing their intense intent to kill them. Similarly, the Tang Jiao, after being wounded, would certainly harbor strong enmity towards him. And yet both sides, upon seeing the torch, immediately stopped, making it their sole target. Xia Hong didn't dare look back anymore. Even if a fight broke out between the Tang Jiao and the rodent group, he didn't have the courage to return to take advantage. Surviving the night would already be a miracle. Turning back now would be courting death, a joke risking their lives. Take the 2 rodent carcasses and hurry back to camp. The 3 frantically ran, carrying the 2 rodent carcasses from earlier, and finally reached the camp just before dawn. The newly built wooden house was nearing completion, with only the interior work left. During the day, with the light source blocked, they could continue working, so besides those resting on rotation, a few were still working inside the wooden house. However, most people were still hiding in the temporary shelters. The disheveled appearance of Xia Hong and the other 2, upon returning, stirred panic among those in the camp, and everyone gathered around with worried expressions. Bang! Upon entering the wooden house, Xia Chuan and Luo Yuan immediately set down the 2 rodent carcasses, called for people to handle them quickly, and followed Xia Hong to the iron refining furnace. Several women from the camp immediately came up with the golden sore powder and shredded soft skin to treat the 3's wounds. Luo Yuan had blood at the corner of his mouth, 4 or 5 claw marks on his left arm and chest. They had already been treated with golden sore powder and were healing, though still bloody, and his back was bruised badly, with several collapsed bones visible, making his injuries the most serious. Xia Chuan had a sunken back, blood at the corner of his mouth, and several scratches on his arm, making his injuries the lightest in comparison. The worst was Xia Hong. Although his injuries weren't as severe as Luo Yuan's, with 3 deep claw marks on his waist and several dangling pieces of flesh. They had been treated with golden sore powder and were already healing. The main problem was his face, with a 3 to 4 inch long scar with the flesh turned outward, looking alarmingly sinister. The 3 not only had severe injuries, but their faces were also noticeably reddish, and their pupils somewhat dilated, showing signs of poisoning. While the others might not know, those from the former Rojal camp, like Xiao Long, immediately recognized it as the toxin from the cloud mist Tang Jiao. Furthermore, seeing the big swords they brought back, not only with nicks but also large areas of worn edges, one could imagine the perilous situation the 3 had encountered in the past hour. Let alone the women treating their wounds, who were all wiping away tears. Even the other onlookers had faces filled with worry and fear. Some of the younger ones even burst into tears, but the adults, worried about disturbing Xia Hong and the others' rest, covered their mouths to prevent them from making noise. "Chuan, what's the situation? What happened to the leader? Is the leader going to be okay?" The first to regain consciousness among the 3 was Xia Chuan. Seeing Xia Hong and Luo Yuan still resting with their eyes closed, the others immediately gathered around, asking what had happened. "Don't make noise yet, wait for the leader to wake up and speak." Xia Chuan shook his head, motioning for the others to be quiet. Half an hour later, Xia Hong's distracted pupils gradually returned to normal, the reddish color on his face faded, and he fully recovered consciousness. "Are the 2 rodents taken care of? Quickly bring them over for me to see." The first thing Xia Hong did upon waking was to ask about the 2 rodents. Xia Chuan immediately ordered them to bring over the handled rodents. "Leader, there isn't much meat on the rodent, only 287 pounds. The internal bones weigh 120 pounds. The 2 gnawing teeth alone weigh 20 pounds and are very hard. The remaining 100 pounds of internal bones are like the previous cold beasts, can only be ground into powder. Additionally, its fur is very soft, providing much more warmth than other cold beasts. The value of cold beasts isn't just in their meat. The fur can be used to make writing scrolls, clothing, and various leather products. Some internal bones can be powdered for medicine, and certain key parts can be used for other tools, among other things." Earlier, to maximize the use of hunted prey, Xia Hong had already assigned the task of handling cold beast prey to the craftsman workshop. After handling the rodents, the results were reported by the workshop master Mu Dong. Upon hearing Mu Dong's report, Xia Hong touched the silver rodent skin. Although his eyes brightened, the light quickly faded. However, upon seeing the azure rodent meat and the 230 to 40 centimeters gnawing teeth, Xia Hong's eyes regained their brightness, and his face was filled with delight. "Leader, did some strong enemy appear? How did you get hurt like this? Was it a powerful cold beast?" "Leader, let us go with you tonight and fight that cold beast. With so many of us from Great Xia going, we won't be afraid of it." "That's right, fight the cold beast. Even if I have to use my teeth, I'll bite a piece of meat off of it." The people around suddenly started speaking one after another. Xia Hong was taken aback when he noticed their expressions transition from panic and worry to indignant, shouting to fight the cold beast. He immediately felt a wave of warmth in his heart. He, Xia Chuan, and Luo Yuan were basically the strongest in Great Xia right now. Even if the 3 of them were like this, these people in the camp understood that even if they went to fight, it would still be a dead end. Yet even so, seeing him injured like this, they set aside their initial fear and worries, instead showing a fierce determination. If not for their high recognition of him as their leader, this group of hundreds wouldn't react like this. A bunch appeared on the northern slope. Xia Hong didn't hide anything and directly spoke about the rodent group. Since the people in the camp were trustworthy, he decided to tell them, and his upcoming plans also involved using the people from the camp. When Xia Hong finished explaining the rodent situation, everyone in the camp fell silent, worry spreading over their faces. Xia Hong felt it too. He pondered slightly, then raised his head to look straight at everyone. "The northern slope is only 2 kilometers from the valley here. If discovered by that group of rodents, everyone in our Great Xia camp will surely meet a dead end, so we must quickly come up with a plan, either drive them away or guide them away. And we must act immediately. The longer we delay, the worse our situation becomes." Chapter 124, Chapter 111, Escape from Desperate Situation 3-in-1 Mega Chapter. Xia Hong's serious tone made it easy for everyone to catch the undertone in his words. Within moments, one person stepped forward. "Leader, just tell us what to do. I'll follow your lead. The first to step forward wasn't initially from the Great Xia, but a member of the Rojal camp, now part of the hunting team, Zhu Yuankai. As Zhu Yuankai finished speaking, Yuan Cheng, Han Gang, Huang Yang and other members of the hunting team, as well as the logging and collection teams, all stepped forward, expressing their readiness to Xia Hong. With the rodent swarm coming, none of us will survive. Just let me know what needs to be done, and I'll do my part without hesitation. Exactly, it's always the leader taking us out to fight, while we've been of no use. Now that we finally have a chance to make a difference, I've been waiting for this day, so please, speak your mind, leader. Just give the command, and I'll be the first to charge forward. Xia Hong sat in his chair, listening to the unwavering declarations, and seeing the determination and fearlessness on their faces, he couldn't help but feel moved. Those who stood up weren't just members of the hunting team, but nearly everyone from the logging and collection teams, even the reserve and ordinary people standing at the back, were part of it. From relocation to camp merger, nearly 7 months had passed, and now Xia Hong realized that everyone in the Great Xia camp was united, with no barriers. Faced with disaster, they had bonded together like a tight rope, and each had the resolve to die for Great Xia. The hard work and dedication of nearly 7 months had cultivated numerous abilities in the logging and earth-digging realms. But at this moment, Xia Hong felt that the courage and responsibility shown in the face of disaster were the greatest rewards he could receive. Excellent in our Great Xia, there isn't a single coward. Xia Hong stood up directly from his chair, visibly enthusiastic. After looking around at everyone, he said solemnly, "With our current strength, facing that rodent swarm head-on isn't realistic, and forcing them away is out of the question. So we must find a way to guide them away from here. The strength of a single rodent isn't considered strong." Xia Hong believed that one-on-one, hunting them wouldn't be a big issue. However, the rodent swarm beyond the clifftop was overwhelmingly large. Combined with their silent digging ability and elusive speed, the current Great Xia was no match, and once the camp's location was discovered, it would be a disaster. Guidance is the only way, especially since Great Xia just happened to have torches, the perfect tool for luring cold beasts. Even guiding the rodent swarm away carries tremendous risk. Firstly, where to lead them. There's no alternative answer. To the north of the cliff is the Lu Shang camp, to the east are unknown mountains, and the south is where their valley base is, which is even worse, so the only option is to lead them west into Redwood Ridge. The north slope of the cliff is only 700 to 800 meters from Redwood Ridge. For safety, they should guide the rodent swarm as deep as possible, up to 1,000 meters into Redwood Ridge, which is as far as Great Xia can reach. Secondly, how to lead them. According to Xia Hong's idea, lay out torches along the way to lead the rodent swarm to the deepest area, preferably near the lair of their natural enemy, the cloud mist Tengjiao. The difficulty of this operation lies in the fact that the torches must be lit simultaneously, rather than lighting one, leading a short distance, and then lighting the next. Such a method would be cumbersome, difficult to control the distance, and prone to accidents. Furthermore, with such a massive rodent swarm that can burrow, who knows if a few will stray and find the person lighting the torches, and then trace back to find the valley, which would result in unforeseen disaster. Lastly, there are various unexpected situations that could arise midway. For example, according to Xia Hong's plan, laying the path from the north slope of the cliff to the inner side of Redwood Ridge would require at least dozens of torches. Lighting so many torches simultaneously is something they've never attempted before, and what if it triggers a large-scale movement of cold beasts? Laying out so many torches along the way will inevitably run into cold beasts, given their density in Redwood Ridge. The danger for those lighting the torches at these locations needs no further elaboration. And whether the entire rodent swarm will move towards the torches. After entering Redwood Ridge, it's best if the rodent swarm fights with other cold beasts, but what if they don't? Moreover, the torches burn for only 15 minutes, and after they go out, will the rodents settle within Redwood Ridge, or will they return to the north slope of the cliff? If they return, won't their efforts be wasted? Xia Hong explained his entire plan, including the difficulties of implementation, the various possibilities of success or failure, and even his concerns in detail. He explained clearly, and the others understood quickly. Essentially, this approach is an attempt by the weak. From tonight's encounter, it becomes clear that gradually luring them with torches and killing them in batches is utterly impossible. Firstly, the sheer number of nearly 400 makes it an endless task. Secondly, rodents can communicate and coordinate, and if any hunting attempt fails, it could jeopardize the camp's safety. Chapter 125. Chapter 111. A Narrow Escape from Desperation, 3 in 1 Mega Chapter /2. If there were any chance to confront the rodent swarm directly, whether it was to expel or to hunt them down in large numbers, Xia Hong would not hesitate for a second. The problem is that the current strength of the camp is entirely incapable of doing so. But to allow them to occupy that area is a dead end sooner or later, so we can only try using torches to lure them elsewhere. This brings up another question. Why is the rodent swarm gathered over there? If it's just an accidental gathering, they shouldn't come back once lured away by the torches. But if the rodent swarm has a purpose in gathering there, then once the torches go out, they will naturally return. The former is fine, but if it's the latter, all the effort and risk of guiding them away would be in vain. Why call it a weak attempt? Because this is currently the only feasible method they have, even if it is very likely to be useless. Can't we move and not live on this side of the valley? Where to move to? East is mountains, can't go there. Rodent swarm is to the north. Moving over 800 people would create a big disturbance, so north is not possible either. To the south, at most it's 3 kilometers away to the Tower Mountain of Deshi Camp. Moving there is no different than not moving. Beyond that is unknown territory, which is even more impossible. Someone proposed leaving, but as soon as they spoke, they were immediately rejected. Then how about? Subsequent suggestions surfaced, yet unsurprisingly, they were either infeasible or excessively difficult and risky. A large group of people, upon hearing suggestions about relocation, visibly showed resistance on their faces. Xia Hong sat silently on the chair, waiting for everyone's discussion. Even though inside he was certain that this was the only method, if the crowd could come up with a better strategy, that would naturally be ideal. Unfortunately, after more than an hour, everyone in the wooden house finally quieted down and slowly turned their gaze to Xia Hong. Clearly, they all realized that the only viable solution was Xia Hong's proposal to lure the rodent swarm into Redwood Ridge. Leader pick people, sitting and waiting to die is definitely not an option. At most, I would die, but if I can lure the rodent swarm away, I'd have done a service for Great Xia and gained face. I am willing to go. I am also willing to go, leader. I am willing to. Looking at the enthusiastic volunteers, Xia Hong's expression was somewhat heavy, but he still stood up, nodded, and then used coal stone to draw the terrain on the ground, beginning a detailed deployment. From the northern slope of the mountain wall to Redwood Ridge is over 700 meters. Penetrating further inside is over 1,000 meters. Considering the detours along the way, it should be within 3,000 meters at most. With torches set every 100 meters, it would require about 30 people. Use the ignition of the first torch as a signal. Once someone in the back lights their torch, they must immediately withdraw, so I need people familiar with the terrain and who can run fast. Also, tomorrow evening when setting up torches, the cold beasts dwelling in the trees along the way should be scouted out and avoided as much as possible. Torches and personnel deployment within 500 meters on the perimeter will be arranged by Xia Chuan. Within 500 meters, Luo Yuan and 4 others will join me in charge. The detailed deployment couldn't possibly just come out of thin air. Xia Hong was merely explaining the operation ideas and selecting people. Everything needs to wait until nightfall, to the northern slope of the mountain wall, to be adjusted based on the actual situation for a more thorough and detailed plan. Once the crowd understood Xia Hong's approach, they enthusiastically offered advice, some of which Xia Hong readily adopted. Soon the 35 personnel and specific execution plan were determined. Among the 35 people, 15 were prominently from the hunting team, while the rest were all members of the lumberjack team, who were the most familiar with the Redwood Ridge environment in the camp. These selected individuals, although understanding the perilous nature of their imminent task, showed no sign of fear on their faces. Technically, this plan doesn't require directly confronting the rodent swarm. In normal circumstances, there shouldn't be any danger, but as I just said, there might be a few unexpected situations. Therefore, I must state in advance that to ensure the camp isn't discovered by the rodent swarm, those executing the torch lighting task, myself included, must not return to the camp immediately after escaping past this point. They must wait until dawn at the earliest to return. Understood. Understood, leader. The 35 people, with somewhat solemn expressions, nodded unanimously in response. Xia Hong didn't say more. Waving everyone away, he glanced at Luo Yuan, who was already awake, noting that his own waist injury was healing rapidly. He lay down on a chair to rest his eyes, quietly waiting for nightfall. The physique in the earth-digging realm was inherently strong, and with the application of golden soar powder, recovery was swift. By nightfall, he and Luo Yuan should already have regained full mobility without any issue. The north slope of the mountain wall, the cold wind is bitter. It was daytime now, and upon first look, only about a dozen long-tailed rodents were left on the north slope. But if following the northern mountain, one would find on a mound over 100 meters away, countless flesh-colored long tails exposed on the ground. Those tails seemed to be swaying rhythmically left and right, with the rodents' bodies underground, making the scene extremely bizarre and disgusting. In a 3-meter-high cave beneath the ground 30 meters from the mountain wall, Chen Ying was standing on the shoulders of 2 men, with his ear pressed against the stone wall at the top of the cave, eyes closed, clearly listening to the movements above. Chapter 126, Chapter 111, Escape from Desperation, 3-in-1 Mega Chapter /3. After listening for a while, Chen Ying quietly descended, his waxy and emaciated face showing threads of despair. The 2 people below saw his expression and clearly realized something, their expressions gradually becoming hopeless as well. They're still there, they're not planning to leave. What's on the north slope? Are these beasts planning to stay here forever? Even if they leave during the day, it doesn't matter. We can't get out. As soon as night falls, they come back and rest above, and we still can't escape. The crystal fruit ran out 3 days ago. The leather, dried grass, and tarpaulin we used before in the cave, everything edible is already eaten, and there are already children fainting from hunger. We can't go on like this, father. The wood is about to run out too. The camp is about to start eating people, father. Shut up, quiet. Chen Ying interrupted his 2 sons' discussion. Although his tone was slightly more severe, he still tried to keep his voice down, fearing being discovered by the cold beast above. But after interrupting them, Chen Ying didn't know what to say either. Thinking of the current situation, the despair in his pupils grew stronger. This group of rodents came over more than half a month ago, and for some unknown reason, they entrenched themselves on the north slope of the mountain wall and refused to leave. Today marks a full 17 days. The Chenyi camp was originally just a small camp with little strength. The reserves of crystal fruit and wood were not substantial, and the logging team has not gone out for 17 days. The current situation is easy to imagine. Chen Ying had considered a desperate attempt, but the problem is that, with their strength, even a desperate attempt was an extravagance. If they exposed themselves even a little, it would basically mean becoming this group of cold beasts' food. Last time during the wood puppet monster incident at Rojal Camp, Chenyi Camp lost 5 people from the logging realm. Now with only the 3 of them in the logging realm, with such little strength, any one of the myriad rodents on the north slope could easily kill them. Chen Ying once hoped that this group of rodents had some purpose and might leave once they achieved it. But up to now, there were no signs of the rodents leaving. Let's go back and have a look. Chen Ying led his 2 sons, walked more than 10 meters towards the south of the cave, and knocked on a stone wall, immediately receiving a response from behind. A stone was moved aside, and light immediately poured out from inside. The 3 quickly squeezed in and sealed the stone wall behind them. Behind the stone wall, there was actually a secondary cave that spanned 20 to 30 meters. In the center of the cave was a small bonfire, with 200 to 300 people crowded around it, their faces full of despair and helplessness. The arrival of Chen Ying and his 2 sons caused a slight stir among the crowd. Yet upon noticing the expressions on the 3's faces, the crowd visibly fell back into despair, their spirits utterly crushed. "Woo-woo, my child, my child." Suddenly, the low sobs of a woman came from the crowd. Chen Ying followed the sound and found a grown woman by the bonfire, holding a 3 or 4-year-old child, weeping quietly. Chen Ying reached out and touched the child's neck, discovering that the pulse had already stopped, his face turning even grimmer. Those closest to the bonfire were children and women. Chen Ying stood up and looked around, finding that most of the children had their eyes closed, barely breathing, with even some already unconscious. On the 3rd day of fasting, in normal circumstances, it would not be enough to starve anyone to death. The problem is, the heating system also broke down. With the cold beasts directly above, they couldn't risk stoking the fire too much. Furthermore, with the wood supply running low these past few days, warming up has become an even greater strain. Surviving hunger alone could barely be managed, but if you add the cold, even adults wouldn't hold, let alone children. If this continues, the children will definitely be the first to die of starvation and cold, then it will spread to the adults. Chen Ying clenched his fists tightly for a moment, seemingly making a decision, the despair on his face gradually shifting to resolve. He turned to the crowd and spoke in a deep voice. Tonight, once night falls, Chen Shang and I will charge out of the cave entrance, running north to distract the cold beasts. Chen Ping will lead the others south. If you can run, then run, if not, then we'll all die together. After speaking, Chen Ying ignored the crowd's reaction and sat directly on the ground, closing his eyes to rest, waiting for the night to come. Chen Ping and Chen Shang, hearing his words, also showed no emotional response, only nodded slightly in despair. Upon hearing Chen Yi's plan, the others reacted similarly, if not more hopelessly than them. It's not just these ordinary people. When Chen Yi made this decision, he knew in his heart that of the 277 people left in Chen Yi camp, none were likely to survive. The problem is, doing nothing only guarantees death. Taking action may at least allow more dignified death. When he confirmed the child's death a moment ago, he noticed the gleam in many adults' eyes. If they continued to stay inside, not only would they die without dignity, but scenes of inhuman tragedy might occur, which he was unwilling to see. Thus, aside from death, there is no other path. Being weak is the original sin. Who let them be at the bottom layer of this icy world? Since death cannot be avoided, they might as well accept it calmly. With eyes closed, Chen Ying's heart sighed slightly, involuntarily recalling Yang Ning and another he met at Rojal Camp some time ago. If only we were born in a place like Beishuo Town, it would be great. The night silently crept in. In fact, during these 17 days trapped deep in the cave, for fear of being discovered by the cold beasts, even the smoke from the bonfire was being vented through wooden pipes to the depths of the cave, let alone opening the cave to see whether it was day or night outside. Chapter 127, Chapter 111, A Turn of Fate triple-length chapter /4. Even daring to make a small hole to peek, he didn't dare. He could only judge based on the noises made by the cold beasts above. During the daytime, the cold beasts would crawl up the North Slope Mountains, and at night, they would crawl back to the mountainside to rest. Hearing the noise above intensify, Chen Ying realized it was already dark. After waiting for a moment, Chen Ying first extinguished the campfire, then led everyone out of the hiding place within a cave, through a 3-meter-high passage, to the outer area where they had previously camped in a large mountain cave. Open the cave. Chen Ying was mentally prepared and didn't dawdle, instructing his 2 sons and some adults to begin clearing the entrance of the cave. To avoid alarming the cold beasts above, they moved as quietly as possible. Considering they hadn't eaten for days and were weak, the clearing process was extraordinarily slow. Nonetheless, everyone was not impatient, likely knowing that stepping outside meant facing death, so their mindset remained calm. When only a final layer of branches remained at the cave entrance, Chen Ying signaled for everyone to stop and exchanged a meaningful look with them, clearly bidding farewell. Just as he was raising his hand to push away the last layer of branches. Thud thud. Suddenly, there was a violent trembling from above. Chen Ying looked upwards, his expression changing in shock, thinking they had been discovered by the cold beasts, and instinctively told everyone to retreat back to the previous cave. Wait, father, the cold beasts, they seem to be leaving. They're not heading for North Slope, they are moving toward Redwood Ridge. Chen Shang and Chen Ping had already pressed their ears to the ground, and after listening for a while, they immediately looked up, their faces filled with joy. Chen Ying was stunned for a moment, then quickly lay on the ground, and after listening, his face also showed joy. He quickly pried open a small part of the cave entrance to look outside. Fire! He was momentarily stunned by what he saw. On the western side of the mountain wall, over 100 meters away, although the view wasn't clear, Chen Ying could ascertain a small flame was burning. At the same time, countless silver cold beasts were leaping down from above, fervently charging towards the flame. No, there's more. Beyond that flame, another one started to burn, followed by more and more, until 4 or 5 small flames were burning close to the outskirts of Redwood Ridge, too far for Chen Ying to see clearly. Everyone hurry outside and run south. Until all the silver cold beasts had jumped down and headed west, continuously moving away from the mountain wall while chasing the flames. Realizing this was an excellent escape opportunity, Chen Yi immediately pushed open the branches covering the cave entrance and shouted to those behind him. He did not escape first, but instead let the others run ahead. Run, run! Hurry, run, quickly, those with strength carry the children quick. Chen Shang and Chen Ping did the same. Not only did they not run first, but they actually went to the back and each picked up a child, urging everyone to run quickly. With over 200 people, it was certainly unrealistic to expect all of them to run out quickly. But under the coordination and organization of the Chen family father and sons, and with the cooperation of many adults, the speed was surprisingly fast. In under 2 minutes, everyone had escaped the cave and was desperately fleeing south. The Chen family father and sons followed at the back of the group, constantly keeping an eye on the cold beasts that had moved to the outskirts of Redwood Ridge, while also watching the dangers behind them. Unfortunately, a group of 200 or 300 people was simply too large. When squeezing out of the cave with their coordination, the speed was quick, but once outside and running south, the speed immediately slowed down. At the same time, a scream suddenly erupted from the group, causing it to split in half, with those in the front running frantically forward and those in the back actually starting to retreat. The trailing trio of Chen Ying immediately rushed to the middle, their expressions changing drastically. Seeing the scene in the middle, their hearts turned cold. 3 half-meter diameter holes appeared on the ground, where 3 silver-tailed cold beasts had already killed 7 or 8 people. One of them even had a person's upper body clamped in its mouth. With a light chew from its gnawing teeth, the person was crushed and swallowed. Hold them back, the rest keep running quick. Chen Ying didn't hesitate, pulling out a stone axe and bravely charged forward, with Chen Ping and Chen Shang closely following, rushing up as well. The 3 were clearly planning to sacrifice their lives to create a chance for the rest to escape. The ordinary people reacted quickly, most circumventing to escape, while a few adults gritted their teeth and followed Chen Ying and his sons, charging toward the silver-tailed cold beasts. If we're going to die, let's fight these beasts. Everyone else keep running. Yes, let's fight it. The scene was indeed heroic, yet sadly, these people were far too weak. The 2 cold beasts hardly moved. With a few leaps, their sharp claws and flashing teeth ended those adults, either slicing them in half or disemboweling them, leaving them in a grim state. The first to rush up, Chen Ying and his sons indeed entangled the beasts for a few moments, but that was all. In less than 3 or 4 breaths, they were directly flung 5 or 6 meters away by the long tail of one of the cold beasts. The cold beast's tail was full of barbs, and the parts of the trio struck by it instantly turned into a bloody mess. The oldest, Chen Ying, bled from the corners of his mouth, unable to stand immediately. Father, let's run. The commotion over at Redwood Ridge is getting bigger. If those cold beasts return, we're done for. Hearing his son, Chen Ping, Chen Ying gritted his teeth, turned his head to see the 2 cold beasts still massacring the ordinary people in the camp, and without thinking pushed him aside and forcibly got up, charging at the cold beast on the left. You run first. Smack. Seeing Chen Ying still recklessly charging, the cold beast's face flashed with a hint of mockery. Its body flickered, and its over 2-meter-long tail whipped out with a crack, flying straight towards Chen Ying's face. Chen Ying's speed was clearly not on the same level as the beast's. He couldn't even attempt to raise the stone axe to block. Seeing the barbs on the tail about to pierce his eye, Chen Ying instinctively closed his eyes, a hint of relief appearing on his face. He was over 40, and considering the average lifespan of 40 years for humans in the Ice Abyss world, he was already quite elderly. He had thought everyone in the camp would starve or freeze to death in the cave. Having this many escape was enough for him. Dragging on this long, quite a few should have gotten away by now. It's worth it. Whoosh! However, just as Chen Ying was resigning to death, a whistle of an arrow suddenly came to his ear, and when he looked up, he saw the cold beast in front of him knocked back 4 or 5 meters. He was stunned. Bows and arrows, don't let those 2 rodents escape quick. A calm and steady command came from behind. Chen Ying and his sons, as well as those yet to run far, all instinctively turned to look back. At this sight, everyone involuntarily froze for a moment. 6 well-dressed, extraordinary youths quickly approached from behind, each with a large knife at their waist and an arrow quiver on their back, stringing arrows as they came, shooting rapidly at the 2 rodents. The one who commanded, the leader, his clothes were described as neat, but neat was far from enough. A light blue velvet hat with 2 5/6-inch white beast teeth, straight white-brown trousers, shiny black beast skin boots, coupled with an imposing black cloak. Majestic. The word popped into everyone's mind, including Chen Ying. Beishuo Town more have come. The thought spontaneously emerged in Chen Ying's mind. Such luxurious attire, coupled with the 6 people's lavish weaponry, reminded him of Yang and Li, and thus connected to Beishuo Town. Leader Chen, stop dawdling, quickly lead the people to escape. Knows me. Chen Ying was stunned, and at the same time he clearly saw the approaching 6 men's appearances. Xia, Leader Xia, how could it be you? Go, we don't have much time, finish them off quickly. Xia Hong had no time to explain to Chen Ying, giving an order and putting down his bow and arrows, drew his knife, and led the charge. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the others followed closely behind. The 6 of them directly surrounded the 2 rodents in the center, giving no chance, and charged in to kill.